All right. Hi, everyone. It's that time of the month again. We're back. And we got a good amount of stuff to go through. We don't have Kiona here, and we almost had Tyler. So I had some gaming stuff that we're probably going to talk about a lot less, considering I don't have the two most avid gamers of the group here besides myself. But we'll see how the conversation goes, because some interesting comments made by developers were said about not realizing what they actually wanted to say. We'll just leave it at
It
that.
was not articulated in the best of ways.
No,
No.
no, it wasn't. It was not. But anyways, we'll start with how our past months were. Rhea, I'll let you go first.
I've been writing a lot. Been helping editing some of the podcasts, so that's been fun. But yeah, I've just kind of been continuing to fulfill my New Year's resolutions beyond like my wildest expectations. Like I've been basically pushing out like at least the first draft of a screenplay like one a month. So yeah,
Nice.
it's been fun, and also just trying to keep work, which hire me, I need money.
That's the fun of it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. That's where it's like trying to get commissions because, like I was telling them, I'm putting together a cosplay, looking for good stuff and looking for good people to commission on things.
Yeah, it's hard right now, and like everything we'll get later in the podcast with like the industry, well, actually multiple industries, like shit's fucking bad.
Mm-hmm.
It is. The world sucks right now. Mike, how was your month?
So I started my new job, a few weeks ago. Still kind of in training mode, but so far things are going pretty good. And of course, I've been keeping busy with all the different podcasts. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be the inevitable future for the next while.
Nice. For me, this past month has been pretty good. Been quietly getting into better. I went through a bad slump of just like not enjoying anything in my life, like sitting at home, just going home and falling asleep, like not able to get into anime, gaming, any of that. It's gotten better. Past month I finished the Madoka side story anime and then got to go to an actual anime convention, and I got to cross off a bucket list item, which was the entire reason that I went to this convention. And I know that Bree will like this. I got to meet one of my top probably 5 characters in media period's voice actor. I got to meet Erica
Mendez.
Mendez.
Yes.
I was so happy. She's an absolute sweetheart, and just that was so much fun. She was great. And got Patrick Stites as well, who voices Iragamagori, but I got his signature for Dio because he didn't have one in there. And also, for those that play Devil May Cry, I went there cosplaying as Nero, so I had to get a picture with him in it, and he laughed really hard. He's like, "Not many people know I voiced that guy." There's a dude that Nero interacts with in, like, when he finally gets into the city. Nico jumps a van over him, and then Nero gets out, and this soldier screams at him, "What are you doing, you dumb son of a bitch? You're gonna die!" And then Nero just goes back, "Take it easy, crew cut. I got this." The guy whose crew cut was Patrick Stites. So in the cosplay, I had to be like, "We gotta get a picture." And he just laughs. He's like, "That's awesome."
Nice.
It was fantastic. What else? Yeah, got to meet and get information with a couple of fellow cosplayers, so that's awesome. Like actual people that are from Minnesota and Wisconsin, that actually regular stuff. So I'm using my Instagram now, which I'm still trying to get the hang of. Oh boy, am I not used to how people use Instagram.
uh, it's like, so I'm like, what do I actually want to put on there? Because I'm like trying to be semi-professional with mine, but I'm like, because I'm a photographer and I'm like such a perfectionist. I'm like, no. I'm like, it's not graded correctly. It's not the lighting. I'm like, I can't just shoot a picture and like post it. It's just like against my personal religion.
Yeah, and just it's only specifically for like pictures and other things and random whatever. So like, this is not a thing that I normally use. So pretty much, unless I cosplay, I'm not going to be using this.
Yeah, I don't use my Instagram at all except to mooch off of of Nick's vinyl posts because he's been doing a good job of doing promo for our podcast.
Oh, nice.
And I usually just mooch off his likes.
Nice. No, that works. Like the only thing I've honestly been using my Instagram for is to keep track and keep in touch with the person who's going to be making the Yamato for the Virgil cosplay that I'm working on. That's about it. But it's nice to get some things out of that. It is good for advertising if you use it in the right way. Okay, so now we got our months out of the way. I'm going to kind of go over the gaming stuff because it's going to go a little bit faster than what we were on before. So I mentioned Microsoft and other people doing a piss load of layoffs last week, and it would be wrong of me to not mention that Sony did the exact same thing a week after that podcast posted. They shut down. I believe it was Deviation Games, which was working. That never even made their first game for Sony after they set them up, and they're shut down. And then they had layoffs at Naughty Dog, Insomniac, and Guerrilla Games. Guerrilla Games, which has sold at this point, I think 32 million copies of the Horizon franchise. Horizon Zero Dawn is the highest selling Sony exclusive of all time at this point with 25 million copies just for that.
Wow.
Insomniac is up in that same exact field with amount of sales for all the games they have, and they've put out a game a year since they've been bought. That's fucking insane. And then Naughty Dog, who does The Last of Us. I don't think I need to say much more than that. They also had layoffs. But yeah, I'm just like, why do we need to keep doing this? I just
AAA gaming was a mistake.
Then you get the opposite effect of it, which is it's a Sony IP, but the studio is not owned by Sony yet. Anyway, Arrowhead Games, they have 100 employees. Helldivers 2, a game that came out, blew up. Their first game, the cap or the highest they ever got was 7,000 congruent players. The opening couple of weeks of Helldivers 2 coming out, the servers were crashing because 400,000 people were trying to play. And now they're on 700,000 and climbing. And they're asking about you need more employees or whatever. He's like, no, it's just back-end coding. And we got the servers up and they're talking about how possibly people asking him to hire more. They have the most chill CEO of all time. I need to add, anyone that looks at their CEO on Twitter, that guy is just amazing. He's like, well, we're doing just fine with what we have. He's like, you don't want to hire more people? He's like, no, I'm not in the practice of hiring more people so I can fire them later. That's not how I run. That's not how I run things. I want the people that work here to stay working here. It's like, wow. It's crazy
what a novel concept.
Crazy. And how
ludicrous even.
Yeah. And how they have, sounds like the most fun job ever. What do I want to say? The RNG of everything. They literally have a dungeon master, one dude named Joel that decides the loadout of monsters and stuff on the planets. It's one guy's job. That he literally just gets to play D&D with the people playing the game pretty much. And he's like, how do you get that job? By being good at knowing what to do. There's no sign up procedure to get it. You just get it. Yeah, but in other things, speaking of separations, I don't know if many of you guys know about Embracer Group. It's this big gaming company that was buying up a shitload of gaming studios and people couldn't figure out why, because they weren't doing much with them and they were just canceling games. It basically boiled down to and found out that they were buying up all this shit in a hopes that they would have got bought out. So basically a mass quantity and get a big payday and then just ride off into the sunset. And then no one ever bought them. So now they're stuck with heaps of developers and they don't know what to do. Until now, one of the recent ones, Saber Interactive, a giant company that has, for a gaming studio, keep in mind, having a lot of employees is having 400. They have 3,500.
Wow.
Paid $500 million to buy themselves out of Embracer. That shows how bad it is when you're spending $500 million to get out of a company. And then another one, Toys for Bob, the people that did the recent remakes of Spyro and Crash, they bought themselves or got out of Microsoft and Activision, but now they're working on a deal to work with them, but they want to stay independent and not be under Activision. That one was really weird, but I get it. Again, I'm just going to kind of roll through these because it's just, again, the one big gamer here. The Capcom, again, didn't lay off anyone, but raised the salaries for every single person that works there because, God forbid, you be a company that's making an assload of money and you give it to your employees instead of just doing nothing with it. And shocking that, hey, what good is David Zaslav doing for Warner Brothers nowadays? Nothing? Cool. Neither is the president of their gaming division, because they openly admitted that their future plans hinge solely pretty much on live service games based around DC Comics, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter franchises.
Not a great plan.
Not a great plan.
But live services, they're the future. I mean, didn't you know, you fool?
That's why they just had one that bombed horribly called Suicide Squad.
And also, other than a few fucking like weirdos, I'm like, yeah, I know Hogwarts Legacy did well, but I'm like, it's also kind of like a mediocre fucking game. I'm like, you really think people are gonna, jizz on their pants for a Harry Potter live service game? I'm like, are you high?
Do you know why that game did so well? And give or take, from what I understood, it played well. I never played it. I was never a big Harry Potter fan ever in my life. It took this long to make that type of Harry Potter game when it should have been made 17 times over already. Mm-hmm. Why do you think people are chopping at the bit to play it?
Well, that's the whole thing to me. But otherwise, it just, I don't want to say that it looks like Skyrim or anything, but it feels like the whole thing just, from what I saw, just looked like a slightly worse version of things that I've done before. And that's not even including like all the like other like moral things. And not even just that, like for me personally, it's also, you know what? I'm like 31 years old. I'm like, I don't need Harry Potter being my fucking whole identity. And honestly, Harry Potter adults to me are worse than Disney adults. Like, what the fuck are you even doing with your life?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Like, I officiated a wedding that was Harry Potter themed, so I thought that was kind of cool. Like other things like that, like they had the Death Eater symbol at the front of the where they got the front part of it, and like they had like a sorting hat at like a table you could do. Like it was cool, it was that, but it's like they don't nonstop quote Harry Potter at people like some people do. The people that are buying their Harry Potter wands on Amazon to do spells like this, to do things in their households, that's over the top. A, that's not going to work as well as you think it does. And B, you look fucking stupid.
I'll never understand Harry Potter adults.
No, I mean, I went to like Universal, like Harry Potter, like what's your choice? I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And that was before like all the other like nonsense, and then at that point I was like, wow, you know what? I'm too old for this shit, and I don't need all this drama in my life.
Yeah. Oh, but don't worry. They're going to live really well off of... Are they still going through with that freaking HBO redo episodic of the freaking Harry Potter books?
If they're smart, they will not do that.
They aren't, though. They really aren't, though.
The past year and a half have just really shown like how creatively bankrupt we are, and then everyone's like, wait, why are we losing this money? We're just booting all of our popular IPs. I'm like people can watch the box set of the original. I'm like, why? What purpose does this have to exist?
Also,
like, you're not adding anything new. It's just
no. And logistically, it doesn't make any sense. Do you remember how much older the main three kids looked by the end of those movies when they were making them back to back to back to back?
Yep.
You're going to wait through seasons of this show and expect to not have to recast those kids before they get worse than the Stranger Things problem? No.
I actually hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that's actually a really good point. You know, it, and the movies or those were still like all done within a decade, and they smart thing that they also did is they cast them a little like underage. So the only one I think who was like slightly older was Grint, but redheads aren't human, so I'm kidding. I have ginger people in my family. But
My brothers are both gingers.
It's all right. They stay young by stealing the souls of others. It's fine.
The fountain of youth is just ginger people just hoarding their secrets.
That's what Death Eaters are. But yeah. Anyway, enough about that. So one other thing that kind of propped up, as I want to say it was a part of the leaks, or if Sony's testing the waters to see if people still want it, the live service game that Insomniac was going to make, where it was basically GTA Online but with Spider-Man. Trailer dropped, and it was all the way done. They had like sections done. They had raid events planned out. They had different types, like origin stories and all this. The problem being, and I understand why they did it, Naughty Dog, a company that has more employees than Insomniac, said point blank that they would have to basically never make a single player game again and only take care of their live service game because it would have been that taxing. And people love all these Insomniac single player games that come out over time because they're really good at keeping their work schedule up and like keeping it on, like before the hack happened, obviously. So they would have had the same issue. And the only company they had that had experience in live service games is Bungie, is literally shitting itself inside a fire. So that company would be probably gone now if Sony hadn't bought it. That's kind of terrifying. But yeah, it looked really cool. If they ever do something with it, that could be a fun thing, but it is what it is.
Oh, speaking of live service, that new Marvel game trailer today,
Rivals.
I can't, Rivals. Honestly, if I was Activision Blizzard right now, I would kind of be shitting my pants because it is like so obviously kind
It's
of
Overwatch.
Yeah, no, it literally is. It's Overwatch, but without the baggage.
Yep. And right now, Overwatch can't do a thing right to save their asses. They can't. And Marvel has openly said they're willing to possibly buy companies just to make them pump out their Marvel games now.
Well, which to me is fair. They've actually, the last couple of years, have been really good at divvying out the licenses, because for the longest time, anything Marvel, like a lot of it was hot garbage, but they've really been more consistent in the last couple of years. I would say more than DC, which if you said 10 years ago that Marvel would have better games and shows right now, I'd be like, you're goddamn out of your mind. But
I didn't see you were in there till just now, Manny. Yeah, they're doing better. Like, you got Blade coming from Arcane, you've got Motive working on Iron Man, and then the studio that we're going to bring up working on Black Panther. And then you've got, was leaked that Insomniac is working on an X-Men game down the pipe later on, and they're also making that Wolverine game. So like, they're coming, and they're from quality creators. So, oh, and Amy Hennig's studio, also Skydance, is making that freaking Marvel 1983 or 63, the Rise
1943.
1943, the Rise of Hydra, and I know they only showed cutscenes. Holy hell!
I know. I was about to say that. I'm like, wait, this looks actually good. What the hell?
That was rendered in real time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And just to be a bunch of braggarts, they redid a cutscene where Grandpa T'Challa, I can't think of his name, bitched out Steve Rogers about how that shield doesn't belong to him, and they took his mask off so you could see the facial animations and how good they looked. Because naturally in that scene, his mask is on. I was like, oh, brag much? Holy shit.
Yeah. Also, getting his Kyrie to voice him was like such a great choice.
Yes. That one's gonna be fun. I have no idea how that thing's gonna play. It looks like it has 4 main characters, those two and like 2 like soldier-esque people. That could be a ton of fun. And Amy Hennig, for those that don't know, is a former Naughty Dog head that basically made Uncharted. So Uncharted with Black Panther and Captain America sounds pretty fucking good.
Yeah, that does sound like a winner.
It does. All right. Now, we're going to get into some foot and mouth style comments that was speaking of Black Panther. And I'm going to say this in the most normalized way possible because I am a white person and these comments were directed at me and my people. So I want to say it was the narrative director at the studio that's making the Black Panther game was being asked about how like everything's going in certain situations. And I don't remember exactly how in the interview got it brought up, but it was basically brought up that Validate is a team full of all people of color. We have no white people on our team. I did that because I want to create a safe environment, and I know the best way for the environment to be safe is to be around people who are just like me. Now, there is a good way to say that exact statement, and that wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
then
mean,
she goes on to say, and I'm not saying that white people are in the industry are creating an unsafe environment. Although she just said, I want the environment to be safe, so I'm not letting white people here. I'm not saying that. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that sometimes it's hard to work with white people because they make something that may be okay, but it was really a microaggression and no one wants to deal with that while you're trying to make a game that they love.
first of all, from what I understand, this was a couple of years ago. The game that they were developing, and that the actual team who's working on this game does have like a lot of white people because it's a AAA title, and it's like kind of like impossible. And I get the sentiment, and honestly, having interacted with a lot of them, especially in the service area, I will be the first person to tell you that white people fucking suck for the most part. So I'm
you're not wrong.
It does. It's just that this got brought up again because she's one of the heads on the Black Panther team.
Which of course it was. And everyone, we're trying to do Gamergate Part 2. I'm like, no, this is how we got into this mess in the first place. I'm like, what? I'm like, stop it. Slap. Yes. No.
Yes. And it's one of those things where you should just say that we did this the way that we did because you wanted people to be like me. Because you're then aiming that and giving ammunition for people that are in an all-white thing to say, well, I think it's more safer if I only have people that are hired that are just like me as well. You're giving open ammunition for someone to say that statement back at you, and you can't say that it's racially intended because you said the same thing. You have to watch how you say things, or you're going to feed ammunition to a racist who throw it back in your face, and then you can't say that they're being racist because you said it at them.
Yeah. It's tough. You have to be very, very careful with your words.
Now, I'm going to openly admit this. If these comments were being made about her and being a narrative director, which I believe she was, and I think she is for this, if you were going to say for this Black Panther game that I'm only hiring Black people because they are going to better understand the heritage and all of this more than a person who possibly wouldn't have family that was involved in the, like, I want to say background of the character. Nothing would be wrong with that statement whatsoever, and I would defend her against anyone who would have said otherwise. Because that's an actually good reason.
Mm-hmm.
That was not. But yeah, I want everyone to have equal opportunities. I want everyone to work in a situation where they need to. Just word things you say more carefully, because
Don't give the other side ammunition.
don't give the other side ammunition, and everything is recorded. People like to forget this, but everything is recorded. When you go live, it doesn't magically just go away once you hit the stop button.
No, it does not.
Whether you deleted the recording or not, it doesn't mean that 1,600 other people were recording it, waiting for you to say something so they could clip it and put it on the internet.
And of course, use it in completely bad faith.
Exactly.
Of course.
Where they clip end and start off and only have that chunk. But nah. Anyway, so the last gaming subject before we get into the stuff that you guys are gonna have a lot more input on. I'm gonna be honest, my favorite gaming series of all time is Horizon. There's never been a time in my life where I felt like someone pulled my brain clean out, threw it into a gaming development studio, and went, everything this guy likes, put it into a video game. It's just there. My favorite developer, though, probably is Capcom. They make Devil May Cry, Dragon's Dogma, Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, all that. They've made all games more than I could say that I love. Like, I couldn't live if I couldn't play Devil May Cry and Resident Evil anymore. I just couldn't. It's so much a part of my identity at this point. Dragon's Dogma 2 just came out, and it is the weirdest. It's the weirdest thing. This is not Dragon's Dogma 2. It's Dragon's Dogma .2. Even when you start the game, the start screen just says Dragon's Dogma. It doesn't have 2. It's literally they just went, we didn't have the ability to fully make this game the way we wanted to last time, and now we do. And it's made by, it's the project lead is Hideki Itsuno, the guy who's made 90% of the Devil May Cry games. Unbelievably talented developer. Unbelievably. Now, the reason why a lot of people are shitting on it, on top of the PC port being not great at the moment, is the microtransactions. Here's the weird thing that's it didn't need microtransactions. I'll fully be aware of that. But the thing that I want to bring up, because I feel that it needs to be said by the people that actually haven't played this game and are just spouting information that is literally wrong. Devil May Cry 5 had microtransactions. It had the ability for $1.99 to buy all of the unlockable extra costumes. For $1.99. Now, there is some skill ceiling in Devil May Cry that some people might not be able to hit at to get the goals to get these, but they want to have the cool costumes. I don't think for cosmetics, $1.99 to get everything the game has to offer is you being a skis bag.
No, I think that's perfectly appropriate, and that's the whole problem is so many companies, it's like you pay $10 for one costume, which is ridiculous.
Go look up Dead or Alive. I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it's 4. You could easily spend, I want to say $2,000 buying all the cosmetics.
Jesus.
And that was before they added more. But hey, jiggle physics gonna jiggle. Anyway, they had this giant list of like probably 20 microtransactions that got listed. And then people lost their shit. Each one of them is like $1. I think the most expensive one is $2.99. Now, the dumbest thing I will admit with this game is you only have one save file. If you want to start, yes, it's dumb and they're fixing it. They are fixing it with the next update. It's weird. It's really dumb, and I don't understand it. It reminds me of Metal Gear Solid Survive, and that just makes me want to. But other than that, that is the one I'll openly admit, like, what the actual fuck were you doing with that? But the other ones, it's like this book to restart your game, which is an item you can get in-game, was $3.99 to get this item. And then a couple were like a jacket, this thing, a certain item, whatever. And that's what every single one of them was. Now, people were then like, you're really going to make it so I have to pay to restart the game? Now, by the time you get to the point where just using that book as an example, by the time you get to that book, I want to say it's like a couple grand of in-game whatevers. If you're not even scraping the outsides, just playing the game normally, by the time you get to the town where you can buy that book, you could easily have 80,000 in-game dollars. Easy. Without question. Scraping could probably have around 200. So you don't need to spend anything to get that. But then there's a couple like people that would just easily want to, I fucked up. I don't want to wait. I'm going to do this quick and restart it. That's what every one of those is. And they're all one-time purchases. You can't buy infinity of them. That's the other part that everyone that saw the microtransactions that didn't look into it didn't want to add. They thought it was just unlimited money pooling that Capcom was trying to get whales out of people. You can only buy each one time and then it's forever cut off. So it's basically, hey, if you didn't want to sit there and grind, you can get that one thing. And all of them together is like $30. So value of time over sitting through or playing the game. That to me is different. Could it have not had the microtransactions at all? Yes. But this is the best version of them, in my opinion.
I mean, for $30, you're essentially basically buying a DLC.
That's what it sounds like, at least.
Yeah, and that's if you buy all of them. And a lot of them, again, you just get naturally going through the game. That's what's weird. It's not like stuff that you're going to never get if you don't buy them. I don't know. It's about the best way I could figure microtransactions could be made into a game outside of Helldivers, which all the extra premium bucks, whatever you can get, which you can get a metric ass load for spending nothing, you get for free in game just by completing missions. So again, it's do you want to grind for it or spend like $2? But yeah, it's a game that's possibly game of the year that is getting ripped to shreds by everyone because of something that, in my opinion, is being blown out of proportion.
I mean, gamers are gonna gamer.
Exactly.
Yeah, people were upset that, God forbid, Tifa Lockhart, had big tits.
Yeah, I don't know why people are so weird. I'm like, you could still arguably like motorboat in them. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. She's just an F cup and not a G cup now. I'm like, God, the world's on fire.
And then they're like, that wasn't like the original. I'm like, do you remember that her polygons for her tits were bigger than her head in the original game? Did everyone forget that? Did we watch the Advent Children movie? Like,
which that was more like a technical limitation because I'm like,
and then the other another thing that like,
and people get mad that Lara Croft's boobs aren't pyramids, so
yeah. But like the other one now, I love how it's now getting attention. That like, have either of you seen any advertisements for Stellar Blade?
I've seen maybe
Or
some
do you know what it is?
I can't say honestly. I like the
Okay.
last one
Okay,
that
so
happened.
Stellar Blade is this Devil May Cry in space-esque thing with this girl named Eve, who's the main character, that likes come back to Earth to like liberate it, and it literally looks like Devil May Cry, but like futuristic with a female main character. And she's well endowed. Just put it that way. And she has a rather giant ass. So now, and then it's come out that she is completely scanned in physically off of a all-natural Korean model. Her figure is exact based on the model they based her off of. And now, after this game is getting closer and closer, and all these people are talking about how they want to like play the game and how they're obviously a big fan of how she looks, head of Microsoft is now pressuring its developers to not make over-exaggerated female figures and to be more realistic because it is better off for gamers. And then people are all slamming underneath it because one of the big contentions was this keeps going after Stellar Blade, then dropping down how Stellar Blade is scanned off of a real person.
So they're saying, it's your fault that she has, a good ass.
It's like, make a game, give or take. I liked the new Tomb Raider trilogy because they're fun games, but also Lara was very attractive, and no one catches this anymore because no one's seen the old version. In the PS3 version, they did a remaster to go onto the PS4. They changed the face model to look more, I want to say, curvaceous, more exotically attractive. And no one believed me because like everyone forgot about that and never wanted to go back to the PS3 version until you got to the last one of the trilogy, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, where they show you the model for the old one that you can switch back to, and it actually shows the face change. No one complained. Literally no one. And the games were fun. And you know what? After a while, I wasn't looking at Lara's ass as much because, you know what? I was just playing the game. Was I admitting she was still attractive? Yes. But nothing about your game's going to be better or worse for someone because they're less or more attractive. The only thing it's going to possibly do less is get less commissions for SFM artists on Rule 34 for people to get animations of their favorite characters getting fucked.
Well, yeah, of course.
So you're taking job opportunities if you don't make attractive characters. That's the statement I'm making on this podcast. You're stealing jobs from starving artists.
I hate how true that statement actually is.
It's too true.
It is a whole industry, and damn it, they need bread on their table too. As long as it's age appropriate. Characters of age of 18 and older, damn it. But yeah, it's like, and that got back to the whole thing where, like, again, going back to Aloy, when Forbidden West was coming out,
oh my God.
I got to find out that a good significant chunk of the world have never been within 2 inches of a woman because they showed a face scan of Aloy and there was little itty bitty like peach fuzz hairs on her cheeks. And they went, "What the fuck are you doing putting facial hair on Aloy?"
Oh God.
You having PTSD from when that was all going down?
I'm like, you've never actually seen a woman up close, have you? You didn't know they had hair on their face? Are you actually fucking kidding me? I was like,
I mean, you're expecting too much out of gamers.
what? That was the one where I went, no, there's actually people that haven't seen a woman past puberty age up close. Like, give or take, you haven't dated them, but you had to have seen one. Come on. Oh my gosh. And it's like, oh no, she doesn't have giant tits or huge. I'm like, yeah. And then like she has a flat stomach or whatever. Like she's a person that rock climbs all day and like fights robots. Dude, like, she's not lifting weights. She's not going to be jacked. What the fuck are you guys think her body shape's going to be? I'm sorry she's not Lara Croft. You can have both.
Some people, man. Some people.
But anyway, all right. We're on to movie news now. I got to blabber about games for 40 minutes. Okay, so I didn't think in my wildest dreams, that it would ever happen. And this brings back one of my things that I wanted to slap John Campea for. I'm normally a pretty big fan of John Campea's. Like, I'd agree with him for the most part. He can be a bit of a dink. I'm not going to be one of those people that openly admits that he can't be, because oh boy, can he be. But, like, he just openly, like, never try anything that's not the main thing. And the one thing that just drove me nuts was he's like, no one would ever watch anything to do with Batman Beyond, and no director would ever want to work on one. No one would hear of it, and no one would go. I'm like, so many people don't give two shits that Bruce Wayne is in a bat suit. They care about seeing Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And now I find out that fucking Denis Villeneuve would love to make a fucking Batman Beyond movie. The man that made the Blade Runner sequel wants to make a Batman Beyond movie? take my motherfucking money, please.
Give me a sec while I look up his actual quote.
But it was from an interview. I don't remember the exact quote, but like talking about the neo-noir of it and all that. If he can do what he did in Dune for $200 million, imagine the budget and what he could do for a Batman Beyond film. I alone would get you your money back. I'm letting you know that right now.
Yeah, I need to see whatever this movie is, if it's something that's actually possible, because
there's concept art from actual WB files that is online.
Oh yeah, no, there. I guess before the James Gunn regime, Warner Brothers was working on some kind of animated Batman Beyond project, or like a. They
I
had
think
a
it's
couple.
more like a proof of concept.
Yeah.
That is one where it's like, guys, if you can make that work, it's open. But then again, this is a fucking company that thinks fucking Wile E. Coyote can't sell a movie.
Speaking of Zaslav, are you guys aware of the fake Karen Twitter account?
Fake Karen?
Oh, okay. So from the AMTPP, there's a fake.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Did you get to read the part of the scripts about Bob Iger and David Zaslav? So basically, it's a Succession fanfic. Let me just preface it. It's a 65-page like spec script that is like a self-insert Succession fanfic about the strikes. This is the fucking funniest thing. And then one of the funniest parts is when the CEO of OpenAI is just shitting his pants and is proud of it.
Oh jeez.
And then they're at the Glendale Galleria, like Shiv and I think it's a Roman. I'm like, people are gonna yell at me at this, but they're just like all like sitting at like between P.F. Chang's and a cheesecake factory at the Glendale Galleria, and then they're making a joke about Fran Drescher and a Che Guevara beret.
Good lord.
But it's actually like a really good script, and it's like great for reference formatting. But it's like, let me just see if I can. All right, well,
Lord.
let me just actually, I think I might have sent it to Mike. Let me just put it in the chat because I had it right here.
All right, I can look at that later. That's unreal. Good God.
It's not. It's fake. I don't know why I said fake Karen. I guess because white people, that's just my default. It's fake Carol. It's based off of Carol and Barbie.
Got it. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll look at that later. That's.
Oh yeah, but here's the Google Drive to it. It is literally like one of the fucking funniest scripts I've ever written.
I will be looking at that. That's funny.
But I'll do a let me actually just send one of the screenshots of it. It's not like the whole script, but this is just like one portion of it. There we go.
Okay. Hold on. Okay, got it. It's in there. Okay.
Right.
Really? They're worried we're going to replace Tom Cruise with computers? Carol, well, it's nice to have the option, no? We're going to reanimate Wilford Brimley's corpse and make him do TikTok in a Gen Z Cocoon reboot. Maybe not. But we ought to reserve our goddamn right. Carol mixes some shrimp with some chicken and takes a bite. Carol continued. So good. I'm going to call it Bang, 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 Bang. It's where we get a Bang, Bang shrimp from Chang's and mix it with Bang Bang chicken from Cheesecake Factory. Frickin' rocks. Then offering. Sorry, once. Jesus. Good God.
That is both amazing and terrible at the same time.
No, I don't. I never want to know who Faye Carroll actually is because it ruins the illusion. But my current theory is that they're a writer from Last Week Tonight with John Oliver because like that kind of humor. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, but they're definitely like a professional writer because no one would, write a 65-page, Succession fanfic.
Yeah, they got better things to do.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to assume Mike put this in, so I'm going to let him talk about it.
It was either Bree or I who put that one in. So for those who don't know, there was a trend that started, I guess, 2 years ago, where people will proclaim animation is cinema, and yet all we ever see are the same four.
It's always the same fucking 4 movies. Fucking Super Mario Brothers, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and what's like the 4th one? Because I feel like the 4th one keeps changing in and out. It's usually between Ninja Turtles and Mutant Mayhem, and like what's the other one?
Probably.
Verse.
No, it's probably like Ninja Turtles, like the bad guys, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the last year or so it's been more Ninja Turtles, but anyway, it's like always the same fucking 4 movies.
Yeah.
And the reason why this is on the docket is because since the last time we recorded this podcast, The Boy and the Heron won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, which yeah, it's probably that.
Hello, Heisers.
Yeah.
Anyway, so The Boy and the Heron won Best Animated Feature, and apparently that didn't sit well with people who people who insisted that it should have gone to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
I haven't even seen Boy and the Heron, and I'm not upset.
I mean, Mike, you and I don't think either of us were shocked at the outcome.
Oh no, because it was always going to be one or the other.
Once you realize how the Academy votes and the fact that this was basically, okay, this is Miyazaki's last film, probably for reals this time. TM.
He's such a liar.
Look, he will be dead and he will still be making movies. I don't know how he'll do it, but he will.
We're gonna weekend at Bernie's him in the corner. God. Yeah, that's one of those things where there was a pretty recent Marvel movie that had that same thing happen. Shit, Miyazaki is me buying Blu-rays. That didn't win a certain Academy Award, and I can't think of it. And then people finally got pissed off.
It wasn't Angela Bassett not getting Best Supporting Actress?
That could have been it.
Which even the Academy realized that was like so fucked up that they gave her an honorary Oscar in January.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was it. But no one's ever gonna be happy.
Nope.
Never.
No, ever. Never, ever.
No.
As Big Bird is questioning why Mr. Hooper is never coming back.
Jesus. Anyway, moving on to something that makes more sense. Mike, why are they making Ready Player 2?
Oh, God.
I wish Josh Lozano was here.
I do too.
Do you guys remember the weekend that it came out? And so many people were clowning at it that the publisher actually did DCMA takedowns of the book excerpts.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep.
I just... Why? I'm like... First of all, I don't know why anyone ever thought like the original book was good. And yeah, the movie version's more watchable, but that's because Steven Spielberg's involved. But when I think of like Ready Player One, the two things that come to my mind are the Pro CD skit, and then the September guy making the Ready Player One theme song. There's like,
Prosy
where's
is the
the
best.
He is.
I went, man. There was, wow, that was years ago when I want to say it was for a New Year's stream or something. It was either Josh or Jacob were reading excerpts from Ready Player 2, and I wanted to die.
I think that was either a Thanksgiving or a Christmas podcast.
Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, I can't remember what exactly the excerpt was.
There was like them. It was part of it involved the main two having sex and it echoing throughout the halls of the mansion they lived in.
Oh God, I remember like when it came out, I made like a parody excerpt of Ready Player Two. Let me see if I could fucking just find it. Because I wrote like this whole like excerpt. Anyway, keep talking. I'm sure I'll fucking find it.
Oh God, but yeah, it's just I felt like that thing just echoing through the haunted mansion. That was me listening to them reading that horse shit. I'm just I don't remember Ready Player One even being that big of a splash when it came out.
No, like unless you were an avid reader of the Nerdist, then no. Oh, wow. I found this excerpt.
It's been a minute since I've heard someone say the Nerdist.
I know. Anyway, I wrote this. I think it was like for 3 minutes. This is my portion of my own version of Ready Player 2. Oh
no.
I recognized the lead singer immediately, Steve Harwell from the band Smash Mouth. I realized that I had to recite the entire soundtrack of the 2001 DreamWorks movie Shrek, which of course I knew by heart.
Oh, God.
I started with All-Star and ended with I'm a Believer. After finishing this meager task, the door opened. And there it was! The Crystal Skull from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, starring Harrison Ford. The skull released a hologram that looked like it came out straight out of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. There was Harrison Ford himself relaying the next clue. In order to find what you seek, you must make a call and request your destiny. The hologram disappeared. And at the bottom of the skull was an original Danger Hip Top, aka the T-Mobile Sidekick. Program was only a single phone number, 1-800-342-5688. I dialed it, and it was answered by none other than Carson Daly, the host of TRL. Suddenly, I was transported to Times Square, and a cloaked woman in a red catsuit stood in the shadows near the front of the Times Square Toys R Us Ferris wheel. She ripped off her hood, and it was Britney Spears. Her eyes glowed like Aang from Avatar The Last Airbender, and she summoned a Dance Dance Revolution machine. I then knew what I had to do. I performed her choreography perfectly, from Hit Me Baby One More Time, Lucky, Oops, I Did It Again, to Toxic, I Knew Them All. I probably should have prefaced it that it was a parody of like 2000s culture, but...
I'm noticing!
Yeah.
Dear God! What in the actual hell?
See, this is what you get when you bring me onto a podcast.
Wait, did you call this Ready Player 2000?
No, I don't think I was that smart. I posted on Twitter and it got like just 3 likes, but I spend way too much effort on shit posts. But what else is new?
All right, so again, I have not watched this series past the 4th one, so I don't know what to make comment on this, but Scream 7, Nev Campbell's back?
Oh God, there's a lot of there's a lot of baggage with this series now.
Yeah, but I'm curious, like, how many Brink trucks did they have to bring in to get her to come back?
I mean, when you lose two of the biggest stars from the previous film, you got some money left over.
It's definitely but I don't know, man. I remember when that series was supposedly going to be dead after 4.
Yeah, because I think Scream 4 only made like 11 million
It
total.
bombed bad. It didn't help that it wasn't a great movie. It really wasn't. But
Okay, no, it did slightly better. It made 97 million
slightly
worldwide.
better. 11 to 97. It only made like 86 million more dollars. But
And yes, Manny, I agree. Melissa Barrera is doing so much better stuff this year.
I just honestly, even without the drama, I have a feeling she would have like left anyway. Because I'm like, who the hell like wants like all that baggage? I mean, and because realistically, I'm like, Jenna Ortega was like already gone, and like this just gave her like the parachute out of there.
Basically.
Yeah, because you don't want to like keep Jenna Ortega in, one of the hottest rising stars that has ever been in a while. Let's piss her off. What are you even? I don't.
No, but we might hurt Eli Roth and Co.'s Fifi's. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah, I don't know. Someday I'm gonna sit down once they're done with Scream 19 years from now and watch all of them, but not until then because nothing's attracting me to it at this point. All right, so we're gonna call it a teaser. I wrote a trailer in the notes, but Alien Romulus.
I'm intrigued because originally this was going to be a direct to streaming movie.
I did not know that. It looks expensive.
It does. I'm very happy with what I've seen so far. I'm a big fan of Fede Alvarez, and yeah, I'm kind of glad that this is actually getting a theatrical release.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the next, like, half of this year and part of next year, it's just going to be the year of Alien, because finally, that FX series is going to come out next year. It's been like in development hell for like half a decade, and you know, FX has just really honestly been like, I mean, they've always been killing it, but like the last couple of years particularly, between that coming up and Shogun, which, oh my god.
I'm 2 episodes behind in Shogun, but from what I've seen so far, honestly
it's gonna win all the Emmys next year.
It better.
There's not much to the trailer, Manny. People get attacked by facehuggers, and you see an alien. It looks cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it definitely looks better. Like, I can't tell if it's all CGI or if it's like partially puppet. I definitely feel like it's a little less uncanny than the other full CG alien from like a couple of years back, where you could tell, you know, it, especially because, you know, previously it was all like guys in a soup, and then like just the transition to that is like just so I'm sorry, getting all kind of, but it's just like it's so jarring because I'm like, that's moving way too smooth.
Yeah. And it's weird how like they're dealing with these properties, how this one almost went to streaming. Prey, which was freaking phenomenal, Predator movie went to streaming, and everyone wished it would have been in theaters.
It was so good, and I watched it like my first time watching it through the Comanche dub, and it is like such a different experience.
Oh, I bet. Jeez. But yeah, I hope that this gets their head out of their ass of going, oh wait, these still can be good properties when we actually care about them, and then not make the whole plot of the last Predator movie about them chasing a kid with Down syndrome.
Oh, and then
God.
an actual
Like, what the fuck was...
And also, didn't it like an actual predator actually work on that movie? Like not the alien, but an
I don't know.
actual
I
sexual
don't.
predator.
I very well could have. After, like, we're gonna talk about Quiet on the Set later. Nothing would shock me anymore nowadays. But okay, so I want to say the last time we did this podcast, we talked about this, and it might be the reason why it's costing like $200 million. Supposedly Joker 2 is a jukebox musical with supposedly 15 cover songs in it.
Yeah, that is a very Warner Brothers thing to do.
Well, licensing it aside, I'm like, that is just such a chaotic choice just to make it like a full blown musical, and I welcome it because it's gonna make all the edgelord boys just so mad.
I liked what the other movie did, and I got what it was trying to say. I just don't know what this next movie's going to be. Whatever it is.
Here's the thing. I never wanted a Joker sequel. I instead wanted DC to kind of continue to make like these standalone,
a black label brand.
lower budget, black label movies.
Manny, tell that to The Greatest Showman.
Like, they should have made a political thriller about Lex Luthor.
Yes, that would have been so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Make these very well known that they're not in any sort of continuity. Not the dumbass people. Oh my God. For the years following, I had to listen to people going, you need to make sure that Joaquin Phoenix's Joker grows up to be the Joker that's in. I'm like, you want to watch a movie where Ben Affleck's Batman fights Joaquin Phoenix's Joker? Are you fucking kidding me?
No, absolutely
not. Would snap him in 1,000 pieces and eat him.
Yeah, also, like, Joaquin Phoenix is, like, is too high, like, literally, like, high to, like,
there you go.
Consider that. And he has too much, like, self-respect.
That.
Yeah, see, Zach knows what he's talking about.
Give me that. Good Lord. And you could have, like, done a lot of just, and going off with other things, you could have shown some freaking horrific slasher film with, like, either In Training or current day Deathstroke. You know how cool that would have been?
Mm-hmm. But no, instead, we're getting a sequel to a movie that I believe is the highest grossing R-rated movie.
It is. And I have to also ask this question, and I cannot get it clarified anywhere. I can't. Is this the most profitable movie ever made?
The most profitable movie ever made?
This thing didn't cost like $70 million to make, and it made over $1 billion.
$1 billion without China.
Yeah.
Okay. Without China, that's honestly impressive.
Yeah, right. Which
insane.
Is why it got its sequel. Like, no shit.
Like, how many movies that have costed that little made over $1 billion? I'm talking just recouped cost. That's got to be up there for one of the most profitable, if not ever made.
I mean, if you're not adjusting for inflation, I mean, I definitely think over the last few years, I mean, I guess it just kind of depends on, like, exchange rates too, but I'd say definitely it's probably one of the most profitable movies of, like, the last decade. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, there's, like, oh man, what was the name? The name of that low budget horror film series with a clown? Terrifier?
Oh, yep, Terrifier.
Where they cost like $4 and made like tens of millions. I know it's not $4, but like it costs nothing.
Or Blair Witch, if you really want to, like, go back.
Oh yeah,
because I think that only costs. Yeah, what was that, like $400,000 in like 1999 money?
Skinamarak made bank too.
Yeah, horror usually makes a lot of money.
I would love to be able to go back in the day when you were able to con the general audience in the way that they did with Blair Witch.
Oh, you absolutely can't.
There was people that actively believed that was a real movie. And were terrified.
It's well made.
No, but like the trailers and shit leading up to it was literal lies.
No, because Blair Witch, if I'm not mistaken, was probably one of the first movies to have like a viral like internet campaign.
Mm-hmm. It was probably the first well-known found footage film. If not I don't know how many found footage. We're gonna try that again in English. Found footage films were made previous, but yeah, that you can't have marketing like that anymore. Like that in The Ring was another one. You had people legitimately terrified a movie was going to kill them. You can't do that anymore.
Such a different time.
It was unreal. And like, not until the advent of the internet, everything Bruner's like, no, y'all are stupid. But yeah. Okay, here's a prediction. What do you think is a song that's going to be covered in Joker?
Ooh.
You know, since I just brought it up, and it would probably, if they did like a jazz rendition of it, but You Drive Me Crazy.
I could see that.
I'm trying to think of in the mind of an exact. I mean, it's dumb, but like I can see it.
I honestly thought you were going to say All Star.
I was gonna say something like Don't You Love Her Madly by The Doors.
Do you honestly think they would have the balls to do a version of I'm a Joker?
They should.
I dare them now.
You know, that'd be too on the nose. But hey, it's Warner Brothers. Sound of Silence.
It's gonna happen.
Shoot. What other overly dark songs could they do? You know, they could bring back shoot, I can't think of it. Oh, what was the song from Suicide Squad? The first one. Heathens.
Yeah.
Send in the Clowns by Stephen Sondheim.
Well, there's definitely going to be a Sondheim, you know. Yeah, that's like the most basic one. Like, if Send in the Clowns isn't in there, like, I'd be legitimately shocked. I'm like, how dare you call yourself a musical jukebox movie? How dare?
If they're gonna do more Sondheim, I'm sure they have to throw in like Being Alive.
Good. Man, that'll be interesting. 15 covers.
Well, it's probably going to be a mix of like Broadway and pop because I'm assuming the movie's still going to take place in New York / Gotham.
Probably. Now, the other questions are, A, do you think that Lady Gaga will make a song for it? Or B, if they don't, will they cover a Lady Gaga song in it?
I think they'll make one for the end credits so they can qualify for the best original song score at the Oscars like they did a few years ago, like Cats and Les Mis.
Yep.
I just had a really bad image of them dancing on the stairs covering Bad Romance, and I can't get it out of my head.
Oh no. Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what they're gonna do. Lady Gaga's gonna write like a song or two for the end credits, but most of the music is gonna be licensed.
Yeah, that'll end up being what's happened. And it'll all somehow be music that Warner Brothers had in the bank already that they don't have to reuse money for somehow, and it'll somehow cost $200 million. Ah, good God. Anyway, on to something I'm a bit more excited about. Seth Rogen is supposedly developing an R-rated Venom animated movie. That could be fucking bonanza.
I mean, he killed it with TMNT. I mean, if he just wants to get high and make cartoons, I'm like, let
TMNT,
him.
Invincible, The
The
Boys.
Boys.
You might say The Boys really good at producing. And I love how everyone was immediately like, you're gonna let Seth Rogen touch Venom. I'm like, y'all don't realize the amount of shit this guy does behind the scenes. Y'all
Yeah,
are
he's
stupid.
he is multi-talented as a writer, a producer, a director.
He's been better behind the scenes than he's ever been in front of it. And that's
Honestly, yeah.
not trying to be mean at all. He's better at producing than anything he's ever done.
Like I love him
He
as a,
did Preacher too, didn't he?
he did do Preacher.
Yeah,
Yes. He didn't have anything to do with Sandman, did he?
No. That
No,
was
I didn't think so.
I think that was actually David Goyer at one point. Maybe not the Netflix series, but he was attached to a Sandman project for the longest time.
Yeah, the Sandman Netflix season series. Blah. Sorry, my tongue's getting tied here. I swear to God, didn't Gaiman have like a producer credit or something, or was
He did.
like involved? Okay.
Yeah.
He's pretty actively involved in the production.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. That was really good. I wish I would have got more, but whatever.
But yeah, after seeing Mutant Mayhem, seeing what like Seth Rogen's team could do with an animated Venom movie would be insane.
It's supposedly an R-rated animated Venom movie. If they like do an on-screen like maximum carnage, I could be very okay with that. Or like Lethal Protector, or like other things, or like Venom's legit eating people. Or they could go way out of left field and do Agent Venom, where it's him and freaking Flash Thompson just shooting up places. Like, I don't know what.
Honestly, that seems more like a Rogan thing.
I could see something like that.
Mm-hmm. Man, whatever it does, I'm happy to live in a time where I thought it was the coolest shit on the planet that I shared part of a name with a comic book character, and now he's just getting love everywhere. And we got the title for the last one, that Venom: The Last Dance, which is probably going to be the last Sony Venom movie before they do whatever the hell they're doing with Spider-Man and Marvel, because my God, every other week it's something different.
Bring up this latest comment.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was officially canned yet, or is it like in development hell? I'm not sure what's like going on there.
Wasn't okay. Now correct me if I'm wrong. Because I didn't watch it. Didn't he show up as a guest character in the
reboot of DuckTales? Yes.
He did. So basically, I mean, DuckTales is its whole drama, but basically, from what I gathered, is that during regime changes, the DuckTales reboot didn't sell like enough toys, and Disney was like, okay, season 3 is your last season. And I guess, you know, the Darkwing stuff was like a backdoor pilot, kind of like how it was in the original, and it just never got picked up. And then the Rogan thing happened. But as terms of like, you know, the Darkwing thing now, Disney is going through like a lot of shit right now, so everything's kind of up in the air.
You want to know one thing that could honestly help Darkwing Duck? X-Men 97.
Oh, most definitely.
We'll get to something else about X-Men 97, but right now it is the most watched like animated series on Disney Plus, and I hope that helps like get more projects off the ground, because yeah, Marvel Animation, when they actually commit to the project, can turn out some really cool stuff.
They can. Now the rumor going around now is that supposedly Rumbling's talking about doing a whole 90s cinematic universe of shit. That's one cinematic universe I'd be okay with watching.
Honestly,
go as ballsy to bring in X-Force. Does anybody remember that?
But honestly, since a lot of those shows ended on cliffhangers, I mean, at least give them time
Especially
to wrap up.
Spider-Man.
Oh God.
Off to find the real Mary Jane. Fucking Madam Web. Oh. It was
And I just
Hydro Man the whole time.
no.
Oh. And when someone broke my brain that he only threw like 4 punches in the entire like 5 seasons of that show, and I went, no, he didn't. And then I rewatched it, and yeah, he did.
Insane.
Standards and practices.
And I was like, they also had lasers in that show. I'm like, oh yeah, because they didn't want to show guns. And then you had DC going, no, we're putting guns in Batman in Batman. Sorry, we're not putting lasers in it. That was, man, I hope that just shows that a bunch of that stuff back in the day, hey, if you're going to bring back, I know what's really sad here. I love Spider-Man, the animated series. One of the best intros of all time, one of the best Spider-Man cartoons of all time. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you're going to give me the option, bring back and finish Spectacular Spider-Man.
They'll have to untangle a lot of rights to get that.
I know, but if anything needs to get brought back and finished, it needs to be that.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, why can't they just bring it back? Sony and Marvel have worked like together before.
And who has all the rights to all the animated shit with Spider-Man now? Disney does.
Well, I think the reason at the time, because of the merger, they didn't. I don't know what the legal status is now, if it's like before such and such, because not only was that X, but also Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, I think was also canned around that time.
Yeah.
And then we got the shitty Avengers cartoon.
Yeah,
the good one.
everyone tries to tell me is just as good, and I'm like, you didn't watch that garbage. It was terrible.
Oh God, that like Avengers Assemble was so bad.
Trash.
It was honestly like it was about as bad as like some of like the lesser known 80s animated movie continuations.
Like, is that part of like Marvel TV is like so bad, like because like everything has to tie into the MCU, like even like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't start to get good until they basically did their own shit and not try to use it to promote the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even when they tied in, their tied in was, yeah, we're cleaning up this monster that Thor killed in Thor the Dark World. We're connected, guys. Trust me.
That honestly probably is like the worst episode.
It's just like, that was the extent they're like, trust is disconnected. We're never going to show up in that, but we'll reference them in our show all the time. We'll get Sif for like 3 episodes. But that's about it.
Or like in the season 2 finale where they make this really like, they try to make it like this grand epic thing to make a reference to Age of Ultron.
About dusting off the helicarrier, right?
Yeah, it's like, I see cities falling from the sky. I mean, it played well in the show, but then when you realize what it's connected to, and it's like, ugh.
It's not. All right. Anyway, on to the next one. So, probably the most excited I am for a film this year is Beetlejuice.
Honestly, same.
Yeah.
But do you know what that title does? Make me want a third one, because then they can call it Beetlejuice.
I'm just excited because honestly, this looks like the first, good Tim Burton movie in about 20 years. Like, because to me, the last really good one he did was Big Fish.
I think Big Fish is actually my favorite Tim Burton movie.
And also I'm a little biased because my cousins worked on it and they had a Big Fish themed wedding and it was awesome because it was like a multi-million-dollar wedding because my cousin-in-law is he used to run the Magellan Fund in the 90s, but whatever.
Holy shit! Damn.
I mean, it's extended family, not super close, but that's why, like this Hollywood stuff, I'm like everything below that, I'm like, you're all peasants, like you don't understand. I'm like, I'm like, this is like an in and out in comparison.
Yeah, like the slowed down song in the trailer, everyone looking like they pretty much just got ripped right back out of it. You were going to get anyone involved for a younger version to be set in this. You could not have picked someone better than Jenna Ortega. And just literally, I'm sitting there watching some, like, I'm hearing this, I'm like, and I can't think of the orange hair. No, well, that playing, but the orange haired guy, who I'm assuming that's what the funeral is for.
Because he's a registered sex offender, and we're just not going to bring it up.
Yeah, but yeah, I can't remember the dude's name. It's not important. But then, like, we get through all that, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden, you get Lydia Dietz going up to that, and you just see him popping up with that fucking look on his face and going, "The juice is loose." I'm like, I felt like a kid again. I'm like, ah!
Yeah, first of all, I love that Lydia has the same haircut after 35 years.
Yeah.
And that Beetlejuice made like an OJ reference.
It's fantastic. If you at some point see him driving a white Bronco after them, I'm going to lose my shit.
Oh, no.
Like just a little white Bronco in the model town.
Wait! What the fuck was the truck that crashed off the bridge? It was a white truck in the original when they crashed off the side of that bridge.
No, I thought it was a red Corvette.
Was it a red Corvette? I thought it was a white truck. I could be completely wrong.
Or is it a red bug? It was a red. Yeah, it's something.
Anyway, Beetlejuice is my favorite thing Michael Keaton's ever done, and that is coming from a giant Batman fan. I have never seen in my life, like maybe short of like 4 other things, where a human being looked like they were having the most fun they've had at their job ever.
Oh, he is a riot in that movie.
He's just
and the thing is, it's crazy because I think he only is in it like 15 minutes.
It's not much, but it's effective.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like he's there the whole time.
But yeah, I like that they're, going back, it looks like they're doing like some model stuff, possibly like a little bit of stop motion. Like everyone just seems like happy to be here. And honestly, I feel like, because Beetlejuice 2 has been like a thing that has been trying to be a thing for
It's one of those fake movies that everyone thought was happening because no one understands that you can make a fan art of a movie poster like they did with fucking Hocus Pocus 2 for 20 years. Where it's like, did you know they're making a No, they're not. They aren't. That's been the 17th version of it, and then finally 20 years later they made the movie.
About that. Bree, do you remember a script going around, or at least like concept of Beetlejuice goes to Hawaii?
Yeah, I've heard of that. I mean, I'm a like Beetlejuice fan. I mean, I used to love the cartoon growing up, even though it's like so divorced, from the movie. But considering the show, that's probably a good reason. But the thing for me, it is I feel like now is like the perfect time. Like I feel like all the stars, kind of aligned. Beetlejuice became more relevant again because of the musical. Winona Ryder, career revived, and then Jenna Ortega, and then like Tim Burns. He's like, I want to get back to my roots. I'm tired of making like CGI slop.
And this is not my original idea. I want to say I saw it on Twitter. Yes, people, I still call it Twitter because X is stupid and I fucking hate it. Someone else made the thing where, and I will be actually kind of upset if they don't do this. The beginning of Beetlejuice needs to be him still waiting in line to get up the front desk. It has to be.
I don't know that one.
Shut up.
I will be actually kind of upset if that's not how the movie starts. But yeah, it's and then when he finally gets to the front, that's when all the stuff happens in real life. Like outside of it, that's how long it took. That would be phenomenal.
It needs to happen.
I can't wait for that. I'm so excited.
One more thing before we move on. Something else I kind of hope still happens is either putting it out in theaters or just on Max. I need to see a pro shot of the Beetlejuice musical.
I saw it right before it closed with Brightman. It is actually like phenomenal. Is it like the most deepest musical ever written? No, but God, it is like so much fun. I hope to God they did a pro shot. But honestly, since this show's touring nationally right now, we probably, if the pro shot does exist in theory, it's probably not gonna be out for like several years.
Oh, probably, and they'll probably wait till like a few years after this sequel to release
Yeah.
it.
If we see a pro shot before like 2030, I would legitimately be surprised.
No.
Like being honest.
And
For now, I'll just have to settle for animatics because even those are still fun.
And the thing that I want to see more than a musical, that I want to see get resurfaced on a streaming platform somewhere because of this, was the really awesome animated series that came.
Yes.
That show was fucking great, and almost no one remembers it.
I remember it because I used to play in rotation Nickelodeon, and also like in the ye old internet days, back when AOL had video streaming, they had like the entire series on there. And I remember binging it in between pirating anime on YouTube.
Man, remember when they used to have animes split in 3 parts?
Part 1 of 3. Give it 5 stars.
I need both the Beetlejuice animated series and the real Ghostbusters to be on some sort of streaming service.
And the old Men in Black cartoon.
Oh, that's so good too.
Yes, because that thing was legit.
Shop for everyday items.
Alexa, stop. I don't know. It's why. I'm like, go the fuck away, bitch.
All right. On to some. I was going to say we could talk about it, but hey, the teaser trailer for The Penguin dropped. It's happening. And that's it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, it's a show that exists, I guess.
That teaser trailer did nothing. I could have gathered all that on my own.
Basically,
I'm like,
it is one of
it's
those.
a mob show.
I mean, cool. Like
Yeah.
I want to see that, but that trailer really is just an announcement teaser.
Yeah. It's like,
You know, like the whole editing style, like to me, like nothing super differentiated it that much from that stupid Alfred show, like Pennyworth.
I never watched Pennyworth.
Me neither.
No, I haven't either. I'm like, okay, Alfred's like a badass now, which I guess in the comics backstory is.
Which,
but
yeah,
I'm like,
he did have MI6 training, so I guess they actually
all right,
decided to
but
show
I'm
it
like,
once.
it just, I don't know. It had like Kingsman vibes, but with like without any of the irony. I'm like, okay, and it was on a channel that no one fucking watches.
Stars or something?
Epic.
Yeah, who?
Epic. That's what it is.
Yeah, who the fuck watches Epic?
It's like, it's on Tubi. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it.
Oh yeah, no, I'll probably definitely watch it, but I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Cool. Let me just.
Yeah.
Like we don't even have a release date or anything. It just says fall 2024.
I don't even have a synopsis. It's the synopsis is, hey, the Penguin still exists. Like, I assume it's going to be him filling in the cracks for Falcone. That's what I'm going to assume the show is, but yeah. Anyway, okay, so on to some more TV and other things, and this affects me more than anyone because it's literally why I started this channel. Rooster Teeth is shut down.
I can't say I'm shocked, but still.
And from all intents of all the rumors that I've heard, no one at Rooster Teeth was shocked either.
Yeah, this seems like one of those where the writing was just on the walls.
And I'm going to quote Alana Pierce here because it kind of sums it up pretty well. Rooster Teeth was doomed as soon as Warner Brothers realized they owned it.
Yeah, and I think Rooster Teeth is just, not saying the individual shows, but I feel like the concept of a whole is just from like a different era, from like Machina and, College Humor. Just
they also was some horrific mismanagement. On top of
Well, I
having-
mean, yeah, that too. The fact that they stayed around this long is actually kind of surprising.
yeah, with some of the just not great people that showed up behind the scenes in like the thing I'll never understand, and I partially want to blame Gray Haddock for this. He was one of the heads of the animation department. They were doing fantastic with Ruby. They were getting full banner spreads at New York fucking Comic-Con because of this show. Like the front doors were covered in Ruby. And now it's to the point of where Crunchyroll had to front the bill, otherwise it wasn't getting made. They had this show, why they needed to do this, Genlock. They made a second animated show, and they went out of their way to get Michael B. Jordan, Maisie Williams, David Tennant, and another A-lister to be the voice talent in it. Why did you need to spend all that money on that? And then magically, that's when everyone went, that didn't do well. And then Gray went bye-bye, and all the like allocation for animation just went like you were making bank having voice talent from your office. Why did you think that? And then it didn't do well on Rooster Teeth. And then correct me if I'm wrong and not real, like sounding like this made no fucking sense. So then it didn't do well on Rooster Teeth. No one watched it. So then they went, all right, to make this do better, we're going to have the second season available only on HBO Max.
No, yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
How's that going to create your audience bigger?
Especially when it's like the streaming service that's, you know, at the time, HBO Max was one of the better streaming services in terms of like their actual content. But as far as like,
well, the numbers are botched because they're AT&T was fucking stupid of how they launched it, and didn't have it on day one on Amazon or Roku. So you would have to like, you know, fucking like Chromecast it and even to be even able to watch it.
Yeah, and the sad part is I'm sad that people lost their jobs. One of the things that's involved in it, Funhouse, got me through some of the hardest times of my entire life. I spent more times crying myself laughing so hard at some of the just worst days of my life, coming home just like hating my life, working all these hours to save up time, money for a house and all those other things. So I'm sad with that. But the biggest thing, honestly, is they're trying to sell off RVB, Ruby, and their podcast network. I just want Ruby to get finished. For the love of God, it is a dead man show that is 3 seasons from being done.
Honestly, I think realistically, Crunchyroll is probably going to buy it.
Probably.
Because they've already invested like so much time and money into it, and it's already like anime adjacent. You know, it's like at this point, like why not? Like how much could it be? Like compared to licensing like any other like A-list anime.
And
go
ahead.
Yeah, the only issue might be is like, you know, Warner Brothers wanting like $10 million for Ruby, which absolutely the fuck not is going to happen.
Yeah,
no. Like, honestly, the only people I see going for it would be Crunchyroll. I don't see anyone else being invested because it's a thing that is based around being created by a specific group of people. It's not just a show where it's like a comic book show or whatever that has a pre-existing book or anime that has a pre-existing manga that's done. It's a net of like 6 or 7 people that knew the creator better than anyone and have a lore Bible that only they have, that they're not just going to give to someone to possibly ruin this dude's whatever, which everyone who's involved, again, the family of the creator decided to work with them and keep working with them after the show, after he died. He wasn't disrespecting them if the family wanted to continue working with them. You didn't know Monty. Stop acting like you knew him better than the people that make the fucking show just because you didn't like it. You can just not like the show and then not say that they're shitting on a man's memory. That's 2 separate things. Just say you don't like it. You don't know what Monty wrote. He could have easily written something you don't like. I'm sorry that once the show got an actual fucking plot, you got upset. God. But anyway, yeah, it's one of those things that just it's sad because I watched it for so long. I did see that, but I honestly don't see Warner Brothers selling it to a guy, give or take that he has animation experience.
Well, I think he was a part of the original Ruby or whatever. Now, if he can get like a small like investment group to buy it, then that's a totally different story.
That's a different story, but it's gonna be a lot of, you have to have something that makes it worth that we think you're gonna sell it. But again, it needs to be this current version of Warner Brothers that doesn't think correctly anyway. And I can tell you right now, they don't think Wile E. Coyote is worth whatever. They're not gonna, like we just said earlier, they're not gonna give an appropriate value to Ruby. They're not.
Nope.
Well, especially after this fucking stupid crossover movies that I'm sure that they spent a shit ton of money on.
Yep. Which, hey, I enjoyed them, but they were pointless. Absolutely
they're like,
pointless.
well, it didn't make any money. Guess no one likes them. I'm like, no, because they're like two completely different demographics.
Yeah, like they made crossover comics. Cool. How many people read those fucking crossover comics? You should have used that as an identifier if it was worth making the fucking movies and wasting budget on it.
Because it obviously has like a bigger budget than the show, and not only that, but you had to design them like all to the Justice League characters to fit in that universe. Like those movies couldn't have been cheap to make.
No, and then you had to again redesign the Ruby characters in the second movie to fit in the DC style because they're adults now and they're made to look like DC comic book heroes. So they had to redesign both of them both ways.
I mean, you have to probably figure those two movies together were probably like at least $10 million.
At least. Like they talked about how it's just shy of $1 million to make an episode of Ruby. That's fucking nuts.
That is insane.
Yeah.
I mean that's pretty like normal by today's animation standards. I mean, you have some shows occasionally under $1 million, but for like American animation, usually like $2 to $3 million for like your average Disney show isn't like that far off.
Oh no, I don't doubt that. It's just that costing that much, and after it's been kind of screwed over by its own company for what it needs to get at, they need to make it worth continuing to be able to watch for the people that are watching it, but then also be like, we can only spend so much before we're overvaluing the product and then going in the tank because we spent too much. It's a really weird balance. And people don't understand that animation is expensive, and it blows my mind.
Yeah. But even anime, like I heard a figure for like a single episode of Attack on Titan, still like $500,000 to $600,000, and that's on like the higher end. I'm like, most anime are not under $200,000 an episode.
No, and there were some wild statistics, like 60% of all animation is covered by Japanese anime, and there's more papers printed used for anime or used for manga in Japan than there is toilet paper.
Wow.
It is fucking insane how much that business is just, and how it's on the point of almost falling apart because they can't fucking manage animators. Hey, Mappa, how's it going? We haven't ripped on you in a while. Stop what you're doing because it's stupid. Now, everyone else does it, but they've been the most vocal about how they're being dealt at Mappa. Okay. All right. On a slightly more positive note, we're going to talk about the positives first, and then we're going to get to the whatever happened. X-Men 97 is great.
It
Phenomenal.
is.
How are you guys enjoying X-Men 97?
You want to start, Mike?
I don't want to say it's my favorite animated series of the year because there's still a lot of
still March.
yeah, it's still March, and also I haven't seen season 2 of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur yet.
I started it. I still have to need to finish it because I've been like balls deep in like Sailor Moon research for this project I'm working on.
But it is damn good. I'm even as someone who was not necessarily the biggest fan of the animated series, I think I'm on record saying that I personally preferred X-Men Evolution a little bit more. This show feels like it was made for everyone, both fans of the series and people who prefer some of the other shows, or people who just are big X-Men fans of like the comics.
And for people who aren't as well.
Yeah,
apparently.
It's made for everyone.
Rated E for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, my experience with X-Men, I mean, I used to watch it growing up. I'm not sure if I watched it as religiously as Batman the Animated Series, but also I was like 5.
Yeah.
But one of my memories was, I think it was either a Capcom game, but at this bowling alley, there was this, I think it was a tie into the show, there's this X-Men game, and I always played with Wolverine, because all you had to do was just go hit, 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 and everyone would die. So then I would always win. But anyway, I'm loving the whole like vibe of it. I know some people are complaining about it, but I'm like, you're missing like the entire point. They're like, well, they're making it look like older for animation styles that have been used in 20 years. Well, that's the point, because it's supposed to be a part 2. It's not a reboot, and they're adding like this very like subtle like it's camera jitter. They're using like optical distortion and like film grain that honestly, if you're not watching this in like Dolby Vision on like a 4K TV, there's like so much detail that you're missing out, because on a bigger screen, like it looks like a totally fucking different show that you're not going to see on a smartphone. But it looks like, X-Men took a break in like 1996, wasn't that weird back then that sometimes you disappear a year or 2 and just randomly come back? And they were like, oh, we're starting to get into like, some digital animation, and we're doing like still cell shaded, and we're on like VHS instead of film now. So it has like this really like super specific film grain that you saw a lot in like late 90s like cell shading shows. The one visually that it kind of sticks out to me the most, it looks like the very early Scooby-Doo direct-to-video sequels, like on Zombie Island, like that very specific, like not quite cinematic, but still like really pretty, like cell animation that like obviously like it's not a theatrical budget, but definitely like a lot more money in there. It's like this so super specific late 90s look to animation, and I just absolutely love it. But also I'm kind of curious, but they've like definitely made the show like more mature. Like there's definitely like blood and like some light swearing now, but it's not like they've done like a complete like 180. Like kids can still watch this show without their parents freaking out. Yeah. But I'm kind of curious, because they're getting to some of the more controversial, let's just say, storylines from the late 80s and 90s era runs of X-Men, so not quite sure, especially after this week's episode, what's the exact direction they're going in, but we got 10 episodes of this thing, so...
And it's guaranteed a second season, too.
Oh, absolutely. With how it did numbers and everything, and they probably already have it in the can already, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a season 3 announcement soon.
Yeah, and I talked about it earlier with hearing Michael Keaton talk as Beetlejuice. I didn't know they were going to do the thing, but then I was really hoping they were going to do the thing, and then when I heard the light little dent, 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 when the X-Men animation thing showed and they just straight up redid the intro, I lost 25 years of my life and was just sucked right back in.
I mean, it's the perfect theme, and the fact that they've already and I mean they've used the theme in some of the Fox projects, but they've already used it in like 2 like post-merger projects. Like they've used it in Miss Marvel, and I think the Marvels too.
They used it in Multiverse of Madness when Xavier was driving
yeah,
his
so that
chair. And,
yeah, so they've used it already like 3 times in like the last 3 years.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's slightly different. It's less 90s, but it's still there. It's not as extreme as the old one is. If you listen to them side by side, they I want to say de-rommed it a little bit, but it's still there. And even just the little frames of whatever and everything is still there. It's fantastic.
But you know the coolest thing is, I've noticed now every episode they've changed the intro slightly, and that's not cheap to do.
No.
And
like
some
they
of
straight
those,
up took Storm out and put Magneto in.
Yep.
all right, and then correct me if I'm wrong. Like some of the portions they've reanimated, those were scenes from the animated series, like the original that they just redid in HD.
Yeah, the intro is bordering on exact to the original minus 1 or 2 scenes.
Yeah, it's slightly different, but the stuff that is the same is basically note for note.
Yeah, some scenes are switched around a little, but it's damn near identical.
Yeah, but they've added like little like cutscenes because
Yeah,
they did Dark Phoenix in the original show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm assuming, because they used this in the intro for episode 2, so I'm assuming that the Dark Phoenix scene from that is just a re-animated bit from the 90s show.
Yeah. Yeah, that where they got the whole big, I can't control it! Get out of my mind! Yeah, it's really good, and I'm really enjoying it. I had the biggest laugh out of someone that posted something on Twitter. Like, me and Mike were talking about the entire first episode, and then like basically everything we talked about in the first episode got answered and or happened in the second episode. Like talking about how, wow, that's really weird that they're actually going to make Jean Grey have that kid. Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't they not have a son? It's like, nope, they have Hope Summers. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's weird. Cable's not her kid. Oh, they're actually going to change the lore and have it. And all of a sudden, oh, Madeline, is that you? And then everyone is, or who's Madeline, whatever. But like, I love how everyone is like on Twitter, which person do you think is Jean Grey? And then someone went, that Jean walked in the door and fainted. That's her.
I love how that's the tell.
But also, there was this great meme where it's like it's that shot where Cyclops is turned back and he's talking to Wolverine in episode 1 before they fight all the Sentinels, and he's like, listen, bub, I'm just trying to say I don't think it's that big of a deal or a bad thing that we have 2 Jeans now, all right? So that's gonna be getting into, and like I mentioned, I read a decent amount of X-Men comics growing up, but I didn't read all of them. Like I forgot that there was like a whole just plot thing based around Storm losing her powers and then like falling in love with Morph and a bunch of other things, and then finding out that Morph built the thing that took her powers in the first place and a bunch of other stuff. Like they were doing some adult shit that God is gonna be pretty good. It's gonna be a good time. I'm excited to see what they all do with everything involved, and like how there's hints that supposedly they think people are acting that like a certain character has faked being a blonde like government official that was in the second episode talking to Magneto.
Oh.
Supposedly that's a character that Mystique has faked being quite a bit. So, but someone did bring up not a plot hole, but it's like a thing that they're like, they have these collars that take away mutant abilities. You couldn't have just used that as a little accessory in the bedroom with Gambit. You're feeling hot and frisky, just slap that on, you bump uglies a little bit, take it off, and then you're good.
Right, but then you don't have Daddy Eric.
I know. And that was another one where it was like, well, that's disgusting. I'm like, she's in her 30s, and he looks like he does. So...
just give him the Foxy Grandpa I had from SpongeBob. Just put it right on that noggin. Can be his new helmet.
Yeah. Anyway, so the other thing we got to talk about and how Mike was like, we're pretty sure they're going to have a second season. They do have a second season because it's been openly admitted now that the writer got through this writing the first 2 seasons and was pitching ideas for the third one before he got canned.
Yeah. So this was kind of a bombshell that dropped
The week before.
Oh, and
Yeah.
they didn't even invite him to the premiere.
Now, I don't know what's going on. I've heard I have heard it just happened, whatever. The version that if it's true, I would understand why they did it. Supposedly. The guy turned into the most full of himself version ever that everyone got super sick of working with him because he was taunting around how good his ideas were and lording above everyone else around the studio. If that's true, good riddance. If not, and he was just axed for whatever reason, that sucks.
What? I have a
What?
feeling it's the former because I think when they were hired, like Disney knew about his like OnlyFans or whatever, and honestly, I don't think they
Huh?
really.
I didn't know about that part.
So he had an OnlyFans account, but didn't use it for anything like explicit.
Okay.
I can't recall exactly what he was using OnlyFans for.
Right, but this was well on the record, and Disney knew that when they hired him, and they just didn't really give a shit.
So I guess on that note, the only explanation that makes sense is Disney fired him because they didn't want him to they didn't want to keep like anyone around who was going to cause,
It was going to be like an HR complaint factory.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. Which, hey, if you're a shitty person, you're a shitty person, I get it. I'm glad you at least got him to write 2 seasons because so far it's really good. But if he's making a work environment bad, then give good riddance.
Yeah, it's like, I guess the only reason I'm not worried per se is, there are other good writers out there.
Mhm.
Like as long as like they get someone of similar talent to keep the show going, if this thing is to keep going and isn't something that's just like planned for 2 seasons and that's it.
Yeah. Spoiler: get a female showrunner.
For X-Men, absolutely.
Yeah. I hope it keeps going. I'm really enjoying it, and they could really give it a freaking go if they give it all that they can. Give or take, they did Apocalypse, Master Mold, Sinister. Dark Phoenix, they did a lot. They did Days of Future Past in the original animated. They did most.
Now they can do all the modern stuff. They can do Krakoa. They can't do Onslaught anymore.
Yeah.
Well.
I mean, they have, they stopped in the mid-90s. I mean, they could pretty much do like a whole like 5 years like worth of storylines that happened after the show aired.
They could bring in what were they? The bug aliens. One that impregnated Kitty Pryde. What were they called?
No.
Oh no.
What were they called? What were they called?
Speaking of it, Shadow Cat was never in the 90s series, was she?
I don't think she. I don't think she was, and that's why they put in
Jubilee.
Yeah. Gosh dang it! What the heck were? Oh, also people being stupid enough to be like, why does Jubilee look kind of Asian now?
Okay, guys.
Let's see, Jubilation Lee. Huh. I wonder what her ethnic origin is.
Fucking idiots. And that was one of the I think the only voice actor that openly stepped away from the show because they wanted the voice person to actually match him, and that was Allison Court
Yeah.
stepped away.
Well, also
I-
Alison
I
Court, I
appreciate
think,
that.
does more direction these days than like
Yeah.
voice acting. But supposedly she's doing like another part at some point in this season.
Oh, I could easily see that. What in the actual Brood? The Brood. That's what they were. They could do Mojo as well. No, they did him. I think they did Mojo, if I'm not mistaken. Oh man, they did so much shit in that original TV show. It was, people forget that thing was on for a while. Okay, anyway, so speaking of voice actors, SAG-AFTRA either went back or went out of their way to not state what they were doing with voice actors because of the AI horseshit that they revealed that they had in there. And something that came up that I had to bring up that supposedly is not making it that way. I'm just going to read this because, yeah. The threat posed by AI technology for the future of filmmaking was central to the last year's actors strike, and the remains of the concern for the SAG-AFTRA union, which wrangled a key provision for voice actors in its latest contract. Actors wanted to protect their likeness and future incomes from potential abuse by Hollywood studios. The worry of the studios, which would like to spend as little money as possible making movies and try to find ways to digitally create actors using CGI and not pay real people behind the images. The battle ended favorably for the acting profession. Now SAG-AFTRA has expanded on that win by ratifying new contracts that also support actors who perform voice-only roles. The contract states that a voice actor in an animated TV show can be formed only by humans. The nuanced document that the SAG-AFTRA released to explain the new contracts makes a number of references to the way a voice actor roles are different from on-screen actor roles. It notes that TV actors are easy to put in a spot when easy to spot when a CGI version of an actor is recognized as a human performer, but the situation applies very differently to animation where voice actors typically perform a character in character voices that are not necessarily recognizable by the voice actor. For example, an actor performing a role in an animated movie or a video game may have a voice so disguised that it's not recognizable as their own. And there's no on-screen image for viewers to realize, for example, oh, that's Jack Black. So the new contract set up rules to protect voice actors performing in recognizable or unrecognizable roles, noting how a digital created voice replica can be used and whether or not such a replica has a sound alike the original actor and how the actor will then be paid. Producers under the modified contract rules must also notify the union and bargain over any appropriate consideration whenever there's a use of a synthetic voice instead of a voice actor. Plus, the contract tries to protect voice actors' rights for the moment a contact producer tries to use an AI system to clone their voice for a speaking role and says when a content producer uses a performer name or multiple performers to use to generate a synthetic voice by prompting a generative artificial intelligence system, they must first seek the original performer's consent. One clear use of digital clones to recreate a dialogue in foreign languages. So the new union agrees, makes specific mentions of this, demanding that if a performance is digitally altered into a foreign language, then the actor will be eligible for all applicable residuals. Good news for American nominated shows for actors, but conversely, possibly bad news for foreign language actors that may lose out on future roles to an AI dubbed version of an American's voice and role. There was another thing where if it gets close enough to a person's voice, or if they use an AI version of their voice, that the actor must be properly paid for even still using something that is their voice. So they got their heads out of their asses and actually did something after they're openly like, no, we don't care.
Well, I mean, voice actors probably make a good portion of SAG-AFTRA, so I think they just got shot right in their asshole, and they just weren't expecting that level of blowback, and they're like, "Fuck."
Yeah, they kind of had to speak up because if you had to guess, how much of SAG-AFTRA do you think is made up of voice actors?
Probably 60%. People don't realize how many voice actors there are.
Oh yeah, no, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of voice actors.
Well, it was not only that, but a lot of times voice actors also moonlight as, secondary or like on-screen actors too.
Exactly.
That's
So
true.
they just go back and forth in between.
Yeah, it's probably a good even split. And there's a good amount of voice actors who aren't union that are still a ginormous amount. People are like, oh, in anime, they use the same actor for 1,600 roles. I'm like, no, there's like probably 100 people that have 600 roles to each of them. You don't realize how much work voice actors get. And why? Because they
also-
get paid like ass.
Also, SAG-AFTRA isn't even the only voice actor guild. There's another guild for
I didn't know that.
for dub actors.
I think it's a newer one.
I did not know
that's
that.
Nava, right?
I think so.
But that's
I
newer,
didn't
and they're
know
not like more like organized. But basically, they're trying to represent actors and cover where SAG-AFTRA is woefully like not picking up the pieces, and because there's like a Nava way there. I'm not like remotely qualified to talk about this, but basically what it does is it guarantees like certain stipulations and like guarantees and like session minimums and like other aspects that a standard like SAG-AFTRA contract doesn't necessarily cover.
Yeah. And on that same note, OpenAI has been openly meeting with Hollywood studios
Yeah, no.
to talk about Sora.
Which, fuck you.
Why?
Fuck you.
At this point,
Fuck you.
did we forget the past year happened?
Well, here's the thing. OpenAI is panicking because they're investing a lot of money to solve a problem that doesn't fucking exist.
Exactly.
And, this is just like, NFTs last year, and, Wall Street investors are going, wait a second. We're not really seeing a return on this investment. What's going on, guys?
Exactly.
There is some good news. So IATSE and the Animation Guild, their contracts end July 31st. So if all of the guilds unite against OpenAI, that could be the end of the discussion.
Yeah, maybe not
God, I
animation.
hope so.
Yeah, maybe not like Tag by itself, but if all of IATSE's in it, then holy shit.
Yeah, then they're done.
Because if IATSE goes down, then that's literally all of Hollywood. If you thought the writers and actors strike was bad, you ain't seen shit. And it's not
No.
even just like Hollywood. IATSE covers like a lot of other shit too.
Yeah, like commercials. Basically everything.
I'm not sure if it extends. I think IATSE works with like stage shows too, of like Broadway. I'm not sure, whose contract is like what, or because like IATSE has like so many different like divisions that cover like very specific things.
And you can't shoot a movie or a TV show without a crew.
Mm-hmm.
Not legally, anyway.
Not legally.
Not legally, which, God, they try to get away with stuff sometimes, and it's just fucking. Ay. But yeah, I just love how it's like the actor strike was done. Yay! Months later, hey, do you guys want to talk? I know you were like getting starved out, but we're your friends. We weren't just trying to take your job. Hi. Just the balls. Just unbelievable. Okay, so this next subject. Either of you two Power Rangers fans?
I know where this is going. I used to watch Power Rangers as a kid, but fuck this guy.
So, a lot of times there was this big thing growing up, and even now until recently. Back in the day, you were a Jason guy or you were a Tommy guy. I was a Tommy guy as I was younger, and I still support that till this day.
Yeah,
Because
most normal people were Tommy guys.
Mhm.
as it grew up, everything got misconstrued that Jason David Frank was such a bad guy and whatever, even though he was a devout Christian that had a freaking judo studio for helping younger kids through tough times. And Austin St. John bitched about people. Big contest there. But anyway, so he is launching a brand called Warrior. It is a brand of clothing that was going to be kind of old school lookish. I was a Billy guy. That is another good answer. I got to meet David Yost last November. Really good guy. I share a birthday
Nice.
with him. Super nice dude. And feel very bad for him for what he went through during Power Rangers.
Yeah,
because
I wonder who the bully was.
I wonder who could have been on set with him at that time. I have no idea. But he's building this line of t-shirts called Warrior, his clothing line, which is going to be based on historical warriors, generals, and all this, these big things and these known quotes. And he goes out of his way to make sure that he mentions, and even some of the bad ones like Hitler. And wait! Wait! His exact quote is fantastic. And, including the terrible ones like Hitler, who we all know, and I'm quoting this, was like a demon on steroids, but he had some pretty good one-liners. With a straight face in an interview says this as if nothing is wrong with that.
And I love how all the Power Rangers alumni were giving like shade, like
especially Kimberly, who is
Oh my
obviously would be a much bigger supporter of Jason David Frank. Like, what the actual shit? How dumb are you?
You don't just say that.
There are so many historical figures. So many. Just off presidents alone, you could make 90 shirts. You're starting with Hitler? What's next? You're gonna have one of Booth where you're like, yeah, I'm a pretty good shot. Like, what is he gonna say? A shirt that said "fuck Lincoln"? Like, what are we gonna like? What are we doing here? I can't think of a thing in my other than just. And the worst part is, I don't know what the quote was, but just recently he doubled down on it. Like saying that people don't get the vision for what he's trying to make.
Look, I know we talk about Florida men, but let me tell you, Texas men, different breed. Like, oh my God.
That was just one where I had to get it in where just you see people mention things and you have to wonder either a part of their brain that's the logic center is missing or the filter's missing. And one has to try and make up for the other and hope that someone on the outside tells them that they're wrong. You make more than enough money signing memorabilia. Your life is made. You're a Power Ranger. You're going to be at conventions till the day that you die. Why would you do this?
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, I did. That was one I had to get in there because I just had to talk about it. All right, now this next one about a better person, and I'm going to let Mike talk about this because he is a much more qualified person to talk about this and a much bigger fan of this person to talk about this.
Okay, so on March 1st, 2024, we sadly lost Akira Toriyama to subdural hematoma at the age of 68. And we didn't really find out about it until March 8th. Because he had a private funeral with just his family and all of that. But when the news dropped that Toriyama passed away, it pretty much shocked the entire world, especially those who were fans of Dragon Ball or his video game contributions to things like Dragon Quest or Chrono Trigger.
Sandland.
Sandland.
I believe it's called Sandland.
Yeah, no, it's Sandland. Yeah, on Hulu
Yep.
and Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's one of the few times that I feel like the world has like legit like stopped. Like State of the Union, no.
He's the godfather of manga.
He is.
The person who made the form of manga said that he was the template to follow. You don't get much better of an endorsement than that.
He is the reason the big three exists. Like he like Dragon Ball is what made anime explode in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everything that you like about modern anime comes from him.
It does.
And even then, like Western media was just as influential to him as he was to, well, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like Dragon Ball, like the manga's been over like close to 30 years now, and like before evolution happens, which
the main actor openly apologized.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, people are still making Dragon Ball references in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was still working on Super up until the moment he passed.
Yep, and the last thing he ever worked on was a 40th anniversary project called Dragon Ball Daima,
Mm-hmm.
Which is supposed to come out later this year, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sometime this year.
I think it's like fall 2024, and it looks amazing. It looks the most like it wants to capture that spirit of the original anime and manga. More so than Dragon Ball GT, which
Don't want to talk about that.
no.
GT is divisive.
That's putting it mildly. That was one of those things where I was even venturing watching Dragon Ball. Everyone who I talked to was like, do not watch GT. For the love of God, don't watch GT. I'm like,
And not only that, do not watch it in English, because what Funimation did to that show didn't help.
What they do?
So obviously what they normally do is they like they'll do things like change the background music, but they took like the first 16 episodes and like shrunk that all down to like one episode before getting to the more interesting stuff. Yeah, they kind of.
I mean,
in the series where they spend 7 episodes in a beam battle? Fucking what?
I mean, to be fair, at the time that was kind of fairly common practice in like the English anime market to, make it like age appropriate and to kind of get to the more exciting parts. I mean, 4Kids infamously did that a lot.
Yeah.
There was another one. What happened? Oh, it was a show. I want to say it was One Piece, where they had contracted to do, 4Kids had contracted to do One Piece before they realized it was violent. And then the studio made them continue through the contract. But it's because they wanted to back out, where it's like Sanji was eating lollipops instead of smoking and a bunch of other things.
Like that one infamous shot of like I can't remember which character it was, but instead of a gun, it was like this huge like hammer machine.
Well, the big issue was they tried to do a network TV. Now, if they had made it for like mid 2000s, like previous Toonami, which I think the 4Kids dub did air there for a time, and didn't make all those ridiculous edits, I don't think the 4Kids One Piece dub would be as infamous as it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mistakes were made.
Again, putting it mildly.
But getting back to Toriyama, I don't think I've ever experienced. I don't think since the death of Robin Williams, there hasn't been like a celebrity death that has like really hit me to my core the way that one did.
I mean, again, even if you weren't the biggest Dragon Ball fan, which I'll admit, probably not in like my personal top 10 series, you cannot deny like the influence that man had and like what an incredible void he's going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He was the bulk and share of Toonami back in the day.
Pretty much.
You could not turn on the TV without seeing Z reruns. Yes. Oh, man. I was not as a big of a fan, but like I'll never be that person that will sit and just say it's garbage.
Like even if it's not your cup of tea, like you cannot deny that it's one of the most influential shows of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the success of Dragon Ball and like popularizing more serialized shows led to shows like Avatar getting greenlit. Like, I don't think if Dragon Ball blew up as big as it did. I mean, Pokemon was super popular, yeah, but that was more of like an episodic show, not with like a continuously, structured plot. Dragon Ball definitely, to me, solidified the concept in like Western animation.
Yeah, like there's more direct pipeline between shows like Dragon Ball and Amphibia, Steven Universe, like showrunners who are like around our age definitely grew up fans of DBZ and have pretty much expressed that love through their own creations.
Right, not even so much in the shows themselves, but the, success of Dragon Ball on a financial level, I think, definitely changed, how networks were making shows, geared towards children.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It sucks. And as much as I'm happy he made it almost 70, it kind of, a lot of people got even more, because I was talking to a person at work and supposedly Super came out like once every 3 months, supposedly. The stress level that is on a mangaka is insane because they typically do everything themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have like a small team of assistants, but like even like for like Kuba, for instance, that's the reason why he's not like regularly making manga. Like he has a permanent like shoulder injury. Like he'll occasionally, make manga, but only if he like feels like it. And he's went on the record saying that he almost decided to quit Bleach because it was getting too much, and he only finished it because he got like a letter from like a Mega Wish kid or something who had like passed away.
Oh no.
And he's like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna just finish this in the memory of this kid, and I'm gonna find this kid's parents and say, hey, I'm sorry for your loss, blah 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 blah.
And like you try to tell people that like, oh, he has to write a book, whatever. I'm like, these people are thinking of this insane horseshit that happens in some mangas. You want to look up the works of the guy that wrote Chainsaw Man and get back to me. It's some insane shit.
Oh yeah, Fujimoto is a madman.
Yeah, Oda taking breaks. Absolutely. And he's like, and he was taking 3 weeks off. That was it. And people like destroyed him over it. But they have to come up with all this, the storylines for it, the character designs, how to fit it onto a page, and then keep it going at the same level of just absurdity that most mangas that stay that serialized are. And if you're in regular Shonen Jump, you were required to have an issue out a fucking week.
Yep.
That's astronomically insane. Most of them got out of it because of that and went to other ones that were more serialized monthly, like Araki.
I was just about to bring him up. Jonas, he was just like, after Stone Ocean, he was like, and he tried to, if I recall correctly, part 7 started in Jump and then moved over to Square because he was just like,
that's pretty close.
It's like he's like, no.
Yeah, and he's one of the few people that, don't get me wrong, he doesn't look like he's aged a fucking day since he was 32.
He's a vampire.
Yeah, like it shrinks your lifespan. It is such a mental strain. It's insane. And it's just like a perfect example of one is, I want to say it's Isayama, the guy who wrote Attack on Titan. It's his first manga. At that level of like getting done with that, and it took a toll on you. That keeping up with all of it and improving your art styling and all that, and just they don't realize how much repetitive just mental work, and like you said, a permanent shoulder injury. You're moving nonstop, continuously. And on top of that, we were talking about how work is treated over there. Japan is work first, well-being later.
Mm-hmm.
Even in people that enjoy their own jobs. Like mangaka that are like, they're having the time of their lives probably doing it, but they're still working their asses off to the bone.
I mean, they're working probably like 18, 22-hour days.
Yeah, and we just went, how come anime delayed? Oh, manga not done. He must not care. Fuck you. Seriously, fuck off. You don't deserve the animation that we get half of the time at this point. An actual human being, if they started at the day they were born, could not watch every anime ever made at this point.
Yeah,
nope.
I mean...
If you spent every minute watching it.
Yeah, if you miss one isekai, you're gonna live.
Speaking of that, I had a realization that broke my brain about a month ago. Don't know what brought it up to me. I am not the hugest fan of isekais. Some of them get kind of contrived to me. And I just feel like, man, I just don't know if I really like an isekai all that much. And then I was sitting there thinking, and I'm like, I'm a hypocrite. And I didn't realize the show was one until, like I said, I was 33 years old. Digimon is one of my favorite shows of all time. How did it not fucking hit me that that's an isekai until I was 33?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
How? On God's green earth did that not hit me until I was 33?
Wait, is Digimon like one of the original isekai then?
It's gotta be. That's one of the OGs. That's gotta be one of the originals.
I guess, or the concept of, I guess that in like Inuyasha. I mean, Inuyasha's not.
That's another one that people forget is an isekai.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess a technical isekai because there's not like the reincarnation part. I mean, it is, but like not in the way that most modern isekai are.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact that there are different subgenres now of isekai.
And then you also get ones that are technically isekai, but aren't, like Gate. A gate opens and you travel through, and then the foreign land is there, but if you walk 10 feet that way, technically you're still in Japan.
The genre's weird.
It is weird. And they have to come up with creative ways, because apparently can't just get hit by a truck anymore.
No, Truck-kun, don't stay unemployed.
Oh no, step Truck-kun, what are you doing?
Yes, don't. Truck-kun, you have so much to live for. Don't jump over the edge of that building, please.
Good God. All right. So, I mentioned at the start of the last subject about how certain things can destroy your mental health. This is going to be the last thing we talk about today. And I watched all 4 of those episodes in one shot yesterday. I've not had seething rage boil through my bones that badly in a while.
Oh, did you hear The
And
fifth
what we're
episode's
talking
coming out?
about is Quiet on Set. Yes, that there's going to be an extra episode with more interviews from everyone. If I could get 5 minutes with Brian Peck, you wouldn't be able to recognize him.
So I haven't had the chance to see Quiet on Set yet, but I've been hearing a lot of these like stories just through cultural osmosis. Brian Peck is not seeing heaven anytime soon.
No. And the fact that after all that shit happened, that they got a police recording of him confessing to everything that he did to Drake, that Disney hired him for Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, made me want to blow my brains out. He did this to Drake when he was 13 or 14, and then they put him on a show with kids that were that age, with Dylan and Cole. Brian Peck was trying to get Drake and Josh rewritten so that he was the dad on the show.
No.
And he basically tricked Drake's dad out of being his manager so that his mom could basically hand him over to Brian.
I feel so bad for the dad. Like, talk about being fucking gaslit.
Mm-hmm. And then again, and like, Mike, you haven't seen it, you should watch it. And then talking about how when they finally, like when Brian got caught and he got convicted and got, I don't know, I think it was 6 years.
16 months.
16 months in
That's
prison for multiple counts of sexual assault on Drake Bell. Multiple. That he, again, confessed to while he was being recorded on the phone to 2 officers of the law. Yeah. But anyway, so they get all of this, and where was I going with this? Where the hell was I just going with this? My mind just blanked. What were we just talking about?
We were talking about the confession.
The confession right before that, though, that they still, oh, wow, come on. Where did my mind just go? That, oh my gosh, my brain just died.
Okay.
But okay. Anyway, now I remember it was with Drake's dad. How he got convicted, and then like this is back in the day again, where the internet wasn't a big thing or like even barely around. And then Drake called his dad, who he was not talking to at the time because he basically dropped all contact, and was basically living at Brian's house because his mom thought it was too far to drive to take him to rehearsals. So then he calls his dad and says, "Hey, did you hear they finally caught him?" And he goes, "Who? What are you talking about?" And he brings up Brian, who his dad in the documentary openly talks about how he tried to get Brian permanently placed away from Drake on these sets. And he says, his dad broke, and his dad's talking about how he broke into tears and said, "Thank God they caught him before he got to you." And Drake did not have it in him to admit to him at that time when he was fixing a relationship with his dad that it had happened to him before they caught him, when his dad tried everything in his power to make it not happen to his son.
Oh, man.
That documentary is heavy shit. I thought I was going to, and I still think Dan Snyder should get his fucking head kicked in, but I thought I was going to walk out of the thing hating Dan Snyder the most.
Before that documentary was even announced, you know, there were always stories like kind of in the background of Snyder being, you know,
A huge perv.
Yeah, to put it lightly.
And the thing is, the only thing they've ever really found evidence, like, you know, the foot thing didn't really become like super prominent until like the 2010s. Most of it is just that he's just like an abusive like asshole, but like nothing that he's done is illegal.
Nothing but like the sexualize of like pouring water over themselves with Ariana and like the things that were literal made to be cum shots, but with like it's ketchup because it's funny. Like yeah, and the thing that I unintentionally laughed, and it happened multiple times because I knew after the first one that it was going to keep happening. It starts off with Dan because Dan kicked off with all of this shit for them that made Nickelodeon into the juggernaut of what it was. But they would go through like a 10, each of these episodes is like 40 minutes. They would go through a 10-minute chunk of talking about how a stint of really bad shit that Dan Snyder did, and then cap it off with a really bad moment. And then it would cut to black, and it would basically say, Dan Snyder says he didn't do this. Moving on. And then it just, every time it cut to black, I'm like, what didn't you do this time, Dan? And every time it would be, Dan completely denies being a part of sexually discriminating against people who he said didn't like giving him massages. I'm like, and then every fucking time it cut to black was just another one of Dan going, Dan says he didn't do the thing.
Like, we're just clearly putting this in for legal reasons.
Yes. It was every time. Do you know in the 90s when you had to have the educational part of the TV show?
Yeah.
This was every 10 minutes they had to have the, by the way, we legally have to tell you that Dan denied this.
And then he did like this weird fucking interview with like the guy who played like Tebow and iCarly.
The day after these aired.
Yeah, and now like, because no one's seen Dan Snyder's in like years. He looks like this weird like knockoff like Rip Torn.
Yeah. And then all he could muster up was, yeah, you know, I probably owe some people some apologies.
Oh, really? You think, dude?
Like, he would constantly go on about how women aren't funny. And like demanding people to write jokes on the spot. And like giving away jobs of seasoned veterans on shows that he's worked on to guys that have literally no experience, and it's their first show they've ever worked on. They've just been plopped there. And like, if you deny giving them massages, you would get bitched at on set. And like multiple people, and there's a couple other ones that were mentioned that I can't remember their names, but thank fucking God for Jerry Trainer.
Everything I've heard about this dude, like he seems just like an absolute mensch.
There's multiple times where like you'll see all these photos where like Dan was always putting his arms around younger women, like around their waist, and just multiple things that were not okay. But then anytime you see them pose for photos with iCarly, Dan would go out of his way to like jump, or like Jerry would like go out of his way to jump into Dan's arms so that he was completely only touching him and never the younger female co-stars.
No, he is the definition of like a bro. Like he, you know, his character, you know, of being like the cool.
Yeah, I can't fucking imagine that there's still someone there that likes Dan. Fuck. But yeah, and then immediately after all this aired, he cut all ties with Nickelodeon. One of the most well-tenured Nickelodeon actors that they've had just went, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, and I think Miranda also like cut ties too.
Miranda, Spencer, the guy who plays Spencer, I can't remember his name. But anyway, and then like all multiple stuff with Jeanette and all the stuff in her autobiography.
Yeah, the creator.
The creator. My God. And just. And the other one, who I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Handy. Fucking God. Was just a PA on all that. There was this young, probably 10-year-old girl, Brandy, that was a star on one of the shows, who was really close with. And that like they would set up for business purposes an email for this young girl. And then the mom had access to it. And then one day the girl comes just crying, screaming out of the room, shuts her door, and starts bawling uncontrollably. And the mom wants to, of course, know what's going on. And in that email to a probably 9 or 10-year-old kid, I believe it was, sent a email saying, I'm thinking of you, and a video of him masturbating.
Oh.
The dude was just a PA. And the mom, not able to or have the power to have anything done, didn't do anything to turn the guy in, just cut all ties with Brandy from the show. But eventually it came back to where they were looking into stuff and those emails were discovered and Brandy had to go and testify for it years later. I remember sitting back watching all these shows and all these things and now actually looking at the segments and how they mention certain things are just not okay.
Yeah, it's just, you're like, haha, and then you're like, no, that was actually really fucking weird.
Like, again, Brian Peck, he was known as the pickle guy on all that, which is hand out pickles. Because, I don't think I need to explain the first part of that. But then they started getting to where all that was really popular and they were actually getting like celebrities to show on that. And there was one where Ray Romano was stuck in a bathroom and somehow couldn't get out. But there was a small hole in the bathroom door about this big.
Oh.
And he's screaming, help me, I need food. So you see Brian Peck sliding pickles in and out through the hole. And taking big juicy bites of them for a TV camera. Talking about how good they taste. All written, keep in mind you, by King of Kids Comedy, Dan Schneider. Again, watch it because it's dark, but seeing the shit that will reframe you and the fact that they actually got Drake to be on there to talk about this stuff for the first time publicly, by the way, was on here. No one knew who he was. He was literally referred to as John Doe in the court documents so that no one knew it was him. And like everyone was the only complaints I saw in this were people that were somehow asininely stupid enough to go, why didn't they get Amanda Bynes to come in for this?
Well,
I think
they tried to and she declined.
Well, that's what I was going to get at. Do you realize how hard it probably was for Drake to talk about this? What people want you to know that they got these things done to them?
I'm like, just leave Amanda alone. She's trying to get her shit together. Like, just fucking leave her alone.
Exactly. And for as weird as it is, they probably didn't go in as far as they could have with everything with Amanda. That went unbelievably lighter on the issue she was having than I thought they were going to.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised about that. Like,
they breezed over it.
Like, what was it just cut? Like, was it just cut for time, or
I don't know.
Or is it legal reasons?
They got her full story up until when she was like away from Dan completely on the show that I didn't know existed that they had outside of Nickelodeon. I can't remember what the hell it was called. Just what I like, or
what I like about you.
What I like about you. It was, and then like cut ties with that because she was trying to get emancipated from her parents and it didn't work. So then that was like the last thing they had together, and then it kind of just cut off at that. Like they talked about how Amanda was basically the new girl that got rid of all that's main actor at the time. I can't remember her name, but yeah, how she was just the new golden child that had a lot of pressure on her. And it seemed like either I was expecting there to be more or they didn't go over everything.
Oh yeah,
Katrina. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was all people that like I never knew their names when they were acting outside of the ones that obviously became big actors. So if I mess up names, I apologize. But that was one that was puzzling to me that it didn't go, again, could be legal, could be whatever. But I always felt like there was going to be a lot more that was going to get unpacked with that because of all of those stars, the one that outside of like Lindsay Lohan with Disney that like had the biggest like just crap storm happen to them, it was Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
It is just weird. And then obviously everything that happened with Drake, which you got into, which the situations with Josh Peck, which for everyone who's wondering, Josh is not related to Brian. Apparently Drake is going out of his way to tell people to not be as hard on Josh as they are being. that there's more behind that than they need to, and that Josh has gotten a hold of Drake privately and talked things out. I don't know. Ever since I've watched this whole thing, it's unreal to me. That all this was allowed, and then he got 16 months. Drake said when he got to the courtroom, Brian's entire side was completely filled by high-powered network executives there to support him. And then the only people there for Drake was his mom and his sister.
And I think Dan Schneider, ironically.
I don't know. I only remember him mentioning those two. He said that Dan called him to see if he was the one who had it happen to him. And he said, yes, it was me. And he asked him if he needed anything. But yeah, and he didn't address Brian, but he'd addressed everyone else in the court. And then it was done with. And then there was multiple actors, including who I did not know until this point, people like James Marsden and a couple other people are like, Brian was a perfectly fine person. And if something like this happened, he was pressured into it. You were pressured into sexually assaulting a child at your house while you were alone multiple times?
No.
Inviting, and that was another one that brought up that, like, he was openly having issues. And then his girlfriend, who he was staying at their house to basically get away from Brian, he called their house nonstop for 45 minutes trying to get a hold of Josh because he was supposed to take him to Disneyland and he didn't want to go. And then the mom pulled him in the other room, immediately went, so what's going on? It's like, no, I'm finding something. He's like, no grown man tries to get a hold of a 13-year-old that badly. What's going on? She sniffed it out immediately, and nothing happened for a long time until around a few years later with Drake and Josh. And then it only got out because he got so pissed from stress that he actually screamed out what was happening at his mom, and then his mom called the police. He never got out in therapy, and it just... And then, like, there's over-exaggerations also about, like, court hearings of stuff about him that got misconstrued and other things and what he's been going through, and fuck. It's a lot. And like Bree said, there's another episode coming out that's more interviews and other stuff that wasn't in the original run of the show. But
I mean, it's blown up so much they've actually been rerunning it on like TNT.
I'm shocked that if there's not going to be more coming out about this, about more shit that happened at Disney, because the fact that it came out that they openly rehired Brian on a show with two, I think, sub 11-year-olds after what he did to Drake.
Well, Dylan and Cole were actually born on the same day, so I think Sweet Life was what, like 2005, so they were like 13 at the most.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. But I thought they were a couple years younger then. They looked significantly younger. I couldn't remember. Either way, it's not okay.
It makes a lot of sense now. It, like, when talking just about Dylan and Cole, why they stepped away from acting for a few years, because this job just kind of sucks for child actors.
It does. And another person who I want to commend on top of Jerry Trainer is Kim Rhodes, who I've seen multiple times on her TikTok talk about how she had screamed at high-powered executives about them body shaming. I can't remember which one of the two it was. I want to say it was Dylan. How there was craft services there, and like one had started gaining more weight than the other, and they were supposed to look like twins. And that there's no more donuts allowed for you two until he looks like him. And said that in front of Kim and an entire group of people to a teenage kid who is having all sorts of other issues. And then Kim talked about screaming off and berating this high-powered executive, not caring if she lost her job, about how that fucking kid can eat what he wants and he can do whatever he wants. He's a child and he's acting. Back the fuck off. And apparently that person didn't work with them for much longer. And also how, I guess, Dylan also returned the favor later on and still gets along, and those two get along with Kim still. Because during that point, I believe at some point Kim was pregnant on the show. and they were supposed to make fat jokes about Kim. And during the scenes, I believe it was Dylan wouldn't say them and was making up other jokes. And then one of the producers screamed at him and said, "Say the joke that we wrote for you." And then he screamed back at them, "As soon as you write something that's actually funny, I'll say it."
Bravo.
Jesus. Yeah. Good God. It's something that is a long time coming. And I hope more justice gets done because of it.
And I'm not sure if you guys saw Quentin Review's latest episode. We don't talk about Dan Snyder, and surprisingly, it's under 2 hours.
Compared to his other videos,
That must have been the fucking Cliff Notes.
Well, he said that, he only went over the stuff that there's actual, like, evidence through that, like, the rumors and stuff, but basically...
Still at that point.
But I don't want to spoil, like, the whole video, but, like, the most poignant thing he said is that it's not just Stan. If the problem was just Stan, then everything would have been solved, and it's not.
Oh, it's not. But people up top didn't care. All these times that all these investigations got launched against people like Dan and Brian, all these executives will come in and go, "Well, how long has this been going on for? Did you never visit the fucking sets? No. Ever?" If you're going to let these people be on this and they're scared to complain, by the time they do and they're like, "Well, it's been complained for years." Well, we never noticed this while I sat in my air-conditioned office about 5 miles away and never looked into it. What's the matter? You wonder why these freaking child actors get messed up. It's not pressure. It's environment.
Mm-hmm.
Give or take, sometimes it is pressure. There can definitely be pressure involved like that, but people gave Macaulay Culkin a lot of shit. That guy's probably got stories for fucking years to tell, and probably is never gonna, and for good reason.
I am surprised that like Judy Garland didn't set like a whole bunch of standards like decades later, because if you know anything about her story, it's about as horrific as you could imagine.
It will never cease to amaze me how a group of people can just notice all this shit happening and be like, "Well, if 17 of us go and say something, is he really going to fire all of us? And if they do, well, then maybe you need to refigure why at a pop you're firing 17 people." A main person can be causing all the problems, but when it gets to a certain point of when no one's saying anything, a lot of people are at fault.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have to regularly launch investigations and then not do a lot more house cleaning than one day of bitching people out, you're causing more of a problem than the person who's there every day causing problems. Inaction can be the worst thing you can do. And trust me, I work in a factory with a lot of people that if they left would make that place better. And they drive away all the good people. And all the good.
That's, not just a Hollywood thing. That's just like an in general thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You got anything else you want to say on a break?
I mean, at this point, what else is there to say? But again, I'm just kind of going back to the Quentin reviews videos. Like, I don't think anyone is asking or is saying that you can't like these shows anymore if they give you happy memories or anything. But I think when reanalyzing stuff from our childhood, you know, whether or not you're comfortable rewatching stuff now has to say really come down to knowing what I know now. Am I comfortable watching this? And I think for me personally, the answer is probably going to be no.
Same.
Like the only one I would honestly ever even think of trying to watch again, because from what I understand, it was after he got into a good position and wasn't having this crap happening to him, was Drake and Josh. That was about the only one that it seemed kind of happened after everything had gone away and that Dan wasn't too insanely heavily involved with. But everything else, it's just, I can't not think about that shit. I just can't. And like, even think, like, I listened back to the intro to Drake and Josh, considering that like that shit happened basically right when that thing was starting, and then it's terrifying how accurate to Drake's exact life situation that song fits.
Oh yeah.
Go listen through it again. It's terrifying. It's legitimately terrifying. Yeah. But anyway, that is the docket for now. And that's all I got, unless there was anything that I didn't mention that someone wanted to talk about.
I guess, you know, considering everything, let's just try to end this on a less heavy note.
Yeah. What movies and stuff are we looking forward to?
Probably gonna see Lizard X Monkey Friends Forever as soon as I can.
I didn't know where the hell you were going with that when you started. Oh, you should look up the movie Ape versus Monster. It's either Ape versus Lizard or Ape versus Monster. It is the Anchor Bay ripoff of Godzilla versus Kong.
Oh, boy.
God.
I am a big fan of Anchor Bay. I go out of my way to watch that garbage because it is the funniest shit on the planet. I'm telling you now, I want to go through a string of 0 stars, which is the show where we just watch absolute fucking garbage and rip into it, where we just do creature movies for a while. Because I will tell you now, I don't think there's been a comedy where I laughed harder than one scene in a movie called Zombie Croc.
Zombie Croc.
It's about this zombie crocodile that is brought back to life by a fucking like voodoo witch doctor that is supposed to take place in like the 80s, but yet people at a birthday party are wearing fucking Justin Bieber t-shirts. And they're like, we need to lower the cage so that we can catch the crocodile, which the crocodile was a puppet. So I had to think, what in the fuck? There's no way you could afford a helicopter if you couldn't afford this fucking alligator. And then I blacked out and woke up out of breath because it then cuts to a shot. And I swear on my soul, I'm not lying. It cuts to a shot of a toy helicopter lowering a milk crate on a string. And I fucking died. For a solid minute and a half, they're doing this dramatic lower high up shot of them lowering this thing down and like slinking it in. And I'm fucking rolling, crying, laughing. Because it's meant to be taken seriously.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
But the other one, and we will do it at some point, is Velocipaster.
Yep.
The best use of no budget ever. This guy is being dropped off by his parents at, what was it called? Pastor College. Not seminary. Pastor College. And he turns around to wave bye to his parents. I fucking can't. I'm fucking crying already thinking about this. They they show the parents, and then it goes away, and it turns back to him, and you see like a poof and a bang, meant to show an explosion of his parents dying, but they couldn't afford to light a car on fire, so it cuts back to the empty parking space, and I fucking shit you not, in bold text across the screen, it says VFX car on fire.
So what was that, like the placeholder text, and they just didn't render it?
No, they couldn't afford it, so that's there.
Oh god.
I gotta see if I can find this. I have to fucking see if I can find this. Velocipaster FX car on fire scene. God, please tell me I can get an image.
You found it.
God damn it! What?
All right.
It's
Where
worse.
is it?
It's worse than I remember. I'm bringing it up right now. It's worse than I remember.
Oh my god.
And then it like cuts back to him like dying, crying, and then cuts back to that as if you're supposed to see what he's crying about.
So wait, I'm looking at this other image in the corner. Are they like in like some fucking like Power Rangers get up? Like with the suits?
No.
Like, what is going on?
That is what he turns into once he turns into the
That's what I'm saying, but
Velocipaster.
That's what I'm saying, but it's a
And
suit, right?
No, and then oh boy, is that when he gains his claw? Oh, it's fantastic. And then like he gets with this like nun prostitute that like he gets some sacred, I can't fucking, this thing is bonkers. Velocipaster just like fucking what? Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh god.
Oh
What is
no.
going on?
Oh no. Oh no. yeah, how is that even like a fetish? Like I don't understand, because I see that like it's a thing in like fan fiction in like Amazon.
That
like,
might go on to the list of stuff I need to watch. Paul Walker plays the T-Rex.
Okay, I'm just gonna disappear now because I can't with that.
That's gotta be a lie. That no fucking way. Mike, we might have to review this.
Yeah, get me on that too. This sounds like
Jesus
a train wreck.
Christ,
I
he
just want to
does.
be part of it. I haven't seen a good train wreck in a while.
Oh God, he does. This was in '94. This had to be one of his first movies.
I think so.
Are you fucking?
Yeah, it's like his third credit.
Oh my God. How do I? Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just imagining like 23-year-old Paul Walker just going around like.
Oh boy. Carnosaur. That's another one. Ghost of Mars. That. Oh boy. But anyway, yeah. So that one's being added on to the shit I need to make someone watch list.
Yeah,
Okay.
do that and Oogie Loves.
I forgot about that. God damn it! I forgot about that till you just mentioned it. I
I think
forgot
Tammy and
all
the T-Rex
about
and
that.
Oogie Loves double feature.
Oh god.
I don't know.
That'll
I
be a
need
nice-
to take breaks in the middle of these things. Consider me for that watch party. Oh man. And then I get into these things where they then show stuff like ticks which is a horror movie about ticks. Giant and particularly aggressive ticks attack a group of young people who have gone for a simple and peaceful walk in the California wilderness. And then there's just more Seth Green's in this movie. God. And then I just go down, and then like there's 900 films based on sharks in a form of a twister. And they all have taglines. And then one of them was like Shark Tsunami, and underneath it said, "'Cause fuck you, that's why."
So it's just a regular tsunami? Like,
Yeah, it's
sharks
like
getting caught in tsunami?
like Shark Tsunami, there's Shark Tornado, Shark Hurricane. There's one called Avalanche Sharks, where I want to say there's an Ouija board that summons spirits that are in totems at the top of a ski lift, and then you
God.
ride down in the shark. I've seen some absolute shit, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Because what started, we'll end on this because this is happier. There was one of the classic Wisconsin, in a day and a half, we got 20 inches of snow type of snowstorms. Why did I just turn to the left and see a movie called Frankenhooker?
Oh God.
God. Anyway, then we go to the Family Dollar that was somehow the Family Video that was somehow still open because of the storm, not because of how his Family Video is still open. At this time, it was still a thing. I need to stop looking at these titles. So then we go in there and we're like, okay, let's find a movie that all of us want to watch. And then, okay, well, I'm almost done. This will be it, and then we're out of here. And then we're like, we couldn't consecutively do that. Like, let's all find a movie that we all haven't watched and we all want to collectively watch. And we couldn't do it. So then we're like, our challenge is, let's find the worst box art we could possibly find. So then I looked for a couple of minutes. I'm like, guys, you're not beating this. You might as well give up. So then I found a movie called Komodo versus Cobra.
Oh, no.
Which was about Greenpeace investigating an island where they were spraying chemicals to enlarge crops to try and solve world hunger. But the Komodos and the Cobras got a hold of them and came giant size. There are scenes where they're swearing and it gets censored by a parrot squawking. And I thought it was just a parrot making noises until they were in an underground bunker with no parrots around, and then they swore again and the sound still got made. So then that started a tradition where we would get bad creature movies and then make a bet at the beginning about how many people were going to die during them. Because they always died in horrible. But anyway, yeah. All right. That's enough of that. It's getting late and people need to bounce. Mike, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You guys can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/Coach K42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and that place at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You can escape, so do we.
Bree, where can everybody find it?
Usually at Crazy Lemur or sometimes Crazy Lemurs
Thank you for everyone checking in,
on most platforms, or at Lemur's Rule. Usually it's something Lemur related. If you want to hire me, you can go that. My business site is usually linked in my bio, all my other stuff, and it's been an experience tonight, a very good experience, a roller coaster of emotions, if you will. And yeah, let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. Thank you to everybody that stopped in, even for a little bit. I appreciate anyone that is willing to watch me and a group of people talk about anything. And oh boy, did we have a wide range of topics this time around. I did not expect to get down the Velocipaster plot hole after you mentioning Godzilla versus Godzilla and Kong, but I see the marks and how they went. But anyways, you can find me at Organoid Zero everywhere on Twitch and YouTube, and I pretty much have it nailed down on everything. I don't think there's anything I'm missing it on. If it is, it's not important. But all right, until next time, we will see you all later.
Bye.